What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers UFC 274. Taking a deep dive here. We have Charles Oliveira going against Justin Gaethje. I'm really looking forward to this card. We have 15 fights to talk about. Haven't had a 15-fight card in a while, so that should be fun. Should be kind of a longer show probably here, and some good fights, especially the main event, Oliveira Gaethje. There is two fights I was really looking forward to thus far this year. The first one, Colby Covington, Jorge Masvidal, and then this one, Gaethje Oliveira. I think this is going to be a lot more competitive than the Colby Covington fight, but yeah, this fight's going to be an absolute banger. As always, I am here with the man behind the stats, Uncle Weezy. You looking forward to this banger of a card?
Oh, come on, man. After these last 3 weeks, we always say the best cards are the ones that we stack cash tickets like flapjacks, but there is a marked difference in quality of opponents on this card, man. Quality of bouts, high-level fighters, and that main event, my God, is it sick. I mean, how could you not be absolutely stoked for Oliveira versus Gaethje? So 15 fights. We got some absolute bangers on this card. 2 championship fights. We got some work to do today, my friends. So let's get into it today. This is a big one.
It's going to be a fun card. Before we get started, we will quickly recap last night. For me, kind of a frustrating night. I felt like the reads were there on a lot of fights. It seemed like everything I didn't bet, I got completely right. But the first bet I had was Grant Dawson, 1.4 units minus 140, beat the line movement a ton. The next bet I did have a 1 unit bet on Daniel Da Silva, minus 115. And this is the one that really hurt me. Here it is. Gina Mazzani, 1.6 units, minus 160. The line closed at minus 210. But that does not matter. And this one I didn't feel great about all week for a multitude of reasons. The first one being it's Gina Mazzani. The second one, I have a bunch of rules that I have been following this year, and I broke 3 of those rules in one fight. The first one was don't lay chalk on low levels women's MMA. The second one was don't bet on gassers. And then the third one was don't fade a bad fighter with a bad fighter. And that just completely bit me. I thought Mazzani looked good early. Was really confused how she did not get Shanna Young down early. And once that happened, I was kind of like, oh, and then it went to the second round and Mazzani took down Shanna Young in the second round. She had the opportunity to take her back. She kind of flopped to her back and it was Shanna Young that took the back, flattened on Mazzani, and Mazzani quit. So that happened. 1-800-GAMBLER was called. The orderlies came, but I was able to overpower them. Next time, Weezy, they need to send backup because what the hell was I thinking betting on Gina Mazzani? So don't think we'll be seeing her in the UFC again, thank goodness. But other than that, Francisco Figueiredo, Daniel Da Silva under 2.5 rounds, plus 110. I love that line, and that was a missed opportunity for me. I felt like I should have smashed that plus 110 under 2.5. We talked about it all week. Daniel Da Silva, killer be killed fighter, and those are spots we need to attack more. So should have been heavier on that. I had the scorecards equals no action for both Mearshart and Marlon Vera. My goodness, Marlon Vera, come on. And this is what hurt the most. I had the 3, 4, and 5 round sprinkles on Marlon Vera. Like, you got to be kidding me, right? Like, Marlon Vera almost finishes him in the second. He almost finishes him in the third, the fourth. Even in the fifth, he hurts him as well. Marlon Vera, come on. If he finished him in the third round, I would have been up like 5 units. The fourth round would have been a 6-unit night. And then in the fifth round, it would have been an 8-unit night. So I thought that the reads were there. Felt like I should have been a little bit heavier on some other spots on the card. I did not pull the trigger, but overall, not the worst night of the world, but my goodness, it could have been a phenomenal night had Marlon Vera followed up a little bit. But Weezy, I know you had a great night. Kind of talk about your night last night.
Yeah, so I mean, I had 5 bets. 2 of them were pushes. I had the finish-only prop on Gerald Mearshart. Obviously, that pushed. And I had that finish-only prop on Marlon Vera. If I would have hit either one of those bets, it would have been an additional 2 units to what I already made. But I had Jotko by decision at plus 200 for 0.75 units, so that was a 1.5 unit cash. I had 1.5 units on the Grant Dawson money line, I think at minus 144, so that was a little over a unit. And then I also had that fight doesn't go to decision for Da Silva against Figueiredo, and that was the parlay that we had done from probability, where we parlayed it with the fight goes to decision for Candelario Tyra, which didn't happen, but dude, if you guys have not tuned into probability yet, we've got really a fantastic way to do data-driven analysis on over-unders and on fight goes and fight doesn't go to decision bets. And that prop template called Dawson fight doesn't go to decision It called Mazzani fight doesn't go to decision. It called De Silva Figueiredo fight doesn't go to decision. And it called the over 2.5 for the Vera Font bet as the one of the bets of the year and one of the best parlay pieces on the card. So we definitely crushed it with the prop betting this weekend, dude. And, this prop template going forward is going to be highlighting our probability show on the MMA Engine channel. And I hope all you guys join us going forward for that show, because it's going to be a great way to spot value spots on all these prop bets that are time based. So you guys got to check us out for that show. It's an absolute banger.
Yeah, for sure. That'll be Thursday, 8:15 p.m. Eastern time. I will not be there, but Lou Betcha will be replacing me on the hosting role there. But yeah, Weezy, the prop template was phenomenal this week or last night. And on top of that, I was using it like a lot over the weekend. I was trying to get ahead, and I'm getting more familiar with the prop template, and there's a lot of things that was sticking out. So yeah, I like the show quite a bit. So before we get started, as always, if you guys can hit the like button, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio, lots of content throughout the week, lots of great content creators on here with us as well. And then we will be back. Well, Weezy will be back Wednesday for the DraftKings show. Let us shout out the chat before we get started. We got, I can't say your name, but we'll say Lou. We'll say shout out to Lou, first one in the chat hanging out. We got Mushroom in the chat, Lorenzo, Glenbot, and Glenbot saying that you have all taken me from $20 on the lottery each week to a 1K bankroll in 9 months. Glenbot, there you go. That is how you do
Love
it.
That.
We got Mike in the chat talking about Fat Collier going against Parker Porter for the KFC belt. My goodness, Mike. We have Jason hanging out, F. Carrillo hanging out as well. Gerald in the chat, Sean V. We got Chris, and we got Brandon. We got F. Carrillo with the dono. Thank you so much, F. Carrillo, saying forever and always grateful to you both for truly being blessings to us MMA fans. And we are grateful for you, F. Carrillo, for donating each week and just hanging out each week. Means a ton. We got Justin in the chat as well. We got Prince, Uncle Weezy hanging in there as well before the show. We got MMA fan, Roy, Angelo. I want to try to get everybody. David in here. We got Boston Nick saying he's been having a crazy day. Nick, hopefully you found your phone. See if I missed anybody. Brass, Bruce, Bo. I see Razor Shard. What is up, Razor? How you doing? Jay in the chat as well. DXJC. I don't think the chat has ever been moving this much. So hopefully I got everybody in here. But thank you all for hanging out. Smash the like button. Really do appreciate it a lot. We have a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. Doughboy saying Brady is the reverse collier. Yeah,
that's awesome.
The
reverse collier.
How you do it? I had to pull the reverse collier on him, right?
That's so brilliant.
I like it. All right. I say we get into it, and let us start with the first fight of the night. So, yeah, I got really early on this card. So I researched all the fights, and then they hit me with a curveball on fight day saying they added this fight, which is really weird because it doesn't really make much sense why they put it on the card, but it's a good fight. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. Andre Fiallo going against Cameron Van Camp. We have Fiallo, who is 20 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. Cameron Van Camp, 29 years old, 6'1". Not sure on the reach there, but we'll take a look at their last 5. Andre Fiallo made his debut against Michel Pereira on short notice, lost that by decision. I thought he put up a very good account of himself, and then he bounces back with a knockout win against Miguel Baeza just a couple weeks ago. As far as Cameron Van Camp, so this guy's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. And Van Camp, I don't know if you remember, Weezy, but Van Camp was supposed to fight Nicholas Mota, and we actually broke that fight down on the show. And I forget what happened. I think Van Camp pulled out with an injury, but Van Camp, this guy is going to, especially in this fight, this guy is going to want to get it down to the mat as soon as possible. He's not going to want to stand with Andre Fiallo. And this fight just does not really make much sense to me because I feel like it's a pretty terrible matchup for Cameron Van Camp. And we do not have odds on it yet as far as I'm concerned, but I'm expecting Fiallo to be a pretty decent-sized favorite. Fiallo, good takedown defense, good power. This guy hits very, very hard, and we saw that in his last fight against Miguel Baeza, where you have Van Camp, more on the hittable side. He seems to rely on his chin a lot. His grappling looks good. His wrestling looks good. But I kind of think Fiallo just comes in here and knocks this guy out in the very first round. I will say, though, if this fight does get extended, Fiallo has slowed down as the fight goes on. So that's something to look out for. But, yeah, I think Fiallo stuffs the takedowns, keeps it on the feet, and knocks out Van Camp here. I think it's a really, really challenging matchup for Van Camp. Weezy, how are you seeing this one?
Yeah, so I didn't get time to really look into this one, unfortunately, but I remember Van Camp, and I remember kind of being impressed by him, and he's got a decent regional scene record. But, this guy Fiallo, I mean, I've been wrong about him twice. I was on Baeza a couple of weeks ago against this guy. Prior to that, I was on Pereira. And I mean, I thought Pereira was going to shave his ass. I think I might have even picked Pereira as the ass shaving of the week that week. And man, Fiallo, I thought that his conditioning was going to be complete garbage, but he got tired, but he remained dangerous and remained using output while he was tired. So he actually looked a lot better than I thought he was against Pereira. And then, man, I mean, like that performance against Baeza was fantastic. And you see a lot of it from this guy, in terms, he's very, very dangerous early. But it's been a minute since I've watched Cam Van Camp's tape. But, what we're seeing here in terms of the experience, Van Camp, a couple more fights, 50 more minutes in the pro cage, 3 more months as a pro. But it's Fiallo who's got 2 UFC fights. Van Camp will be making his debut. Both of these guys have finished 13 out of their 15 wins. And in 9 combined losses, 4 of them have come inside the distance. So both of these guys have been finished, and both of these guys are really good finishers when they win. So, I guess it really just depends on which one of these guys gets their way. But like you were saying, Brady, Van Camp's the better grappler here, in your opinion?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this we could kind of call a striker versus grappler matchup. If it stays standing, we got to favor Fiallo. If it gets to the ground, Cam's probably going to be a little bit better shape there. Would that be? Because I haven't seen Cameron since we filmed him for Mata, and I just didn't get a chance to look at him today.
Yeah, I mean, Cameron's not going to want to stand with Fiallo. That's the last thing he's going to want to do. He needs to get the fight down to the mat early.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan, dude. Can he? How's his wrestling?
It's okay. I don't think he'll be able to do it. But we do have a line on this fight, actually. It's Fiallo opening up -200. He's currently -260.
Wow. Did that just open, dude?
It just opened, like 2 minutes ago, actually.
Oh, wow. So, it opened at -200 and immediately it gets steamed to -260. By the time the show's over, maybe -350, maybe -400.
Yeah, especially after people saw that Fiallo knockout against Baeza. Like, that was brutal. So, I like Fiallo in the spot, but I don't know about laying -300 because if this fight does hit the mat, it'll get interesting. But it seems like a matchup where Fiallo should finish him in that first round. So no fight goes or fight doesn't go, but somebody said it in the chat. I think they said, I don't know where the comments at, but it was like 7 of the last 10 or something have finished inside the distance. And I really do see that, especially stylistically, striker versus grappler, Fiallo knockout, Van Camp potential submission. I think that could be a way to look at it.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, Van Camp's got let's see, it would be 9 career wins by submission. So, that's something to hang your hat on. So, yeah, that's what it appears to be. But, it was interesting when Fiallo said, I want to fight next week after beating Baeza. I mean, he didn't even want to take a week off. So this guy's clearly hot right now. He's clearly very confident right now. And, I don't see why he doesn't get it done here on Saturday, but going to need a little more time to look into this one.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a good fight. It's a good fight. But yeah, this is the 15th fight that was added onto the card. All right, let's move on to the next fight. We have Journey Newson going against newcomer Fernie Garcia. We have Journey Newson, 33 years old, 5'5", with a 67-inch reach. Fernie Garcia, 30 years old, 5'7", with a 67-inch reach. Garcia is going to be 3 years younger, and he's going to have a 2-inch height advantage. So Journey Newson, he did make his debut. I want to say it was on potential short notice against Ricardo Ramos, and I thought he made a very good account of himself. I remember playing Ramos on DraftKings, a lot of them that week, and I thought Ramos was going to kind of run through him, but that was not the case. He was actually pretty competitive with Ramos. He did lose the fight, but again, that was kind of a very tough matchup. It was a very tough matchup to take in your debut. After that, he knocks out Domingo Pilarte in the first round. I think that got overturned because he smoked marijuana. So we'll count it as a win, right?
Yeah, I count it as a win. I mean, the UFC can do whatever the fuck they want. They don't have to listen to me, but marijuana is not a performance enhancer, and he slept Pilarte. So, yeah, win.
Yeah, definitely. So that was a win, and then he gets knocked out by Randy Costa. And then we did see Fernie Garcia knock out his opponent, Joseph, how do you say it? Joseph Weems?
Joshua
Weems, yep. So I think there's a lot of recency bias in this line. Like we saw Fernie Garcia go out there on the Contender Series and get a first-round knockout. He looked really good. He looked like a killer in that fight, but you go back and watch his other fights, and he's not knocking out anybody. This guy has been a kind of a decisionator, has some submissions earlier in his career, but Went out there, got his very first knockout win against Weems. And then on the flip side, we saw Journey Newson get knocked out by Randy Costa in less than a minute. So I think a lot of people are thinking, hey, Fernie Garcia went out there and knocked out Weems in the first round. He's going to come in here and start Journey Newson. I just don't think that's the case. I think this is a very close fight. Newson's striking's pretty solid. This guy just got his black belt recently in BJJ. Fernie Garcia striking's okay. What I don't like about Fernie, though, is he's very, very hittable. I think the striking's competitive. Fernie Garcia, very good wrestler. I feel like he can keep this on the feet. And on top of that, I was not all that impressed with Newson's offensive wrestling. So I kind of see this playing out on the feet. If it hits the mat, I do give the grappling advantage to Newson. But yeah, on paper, this seems like a very, very close and competitive fight. Weezy, how do you see in this one?
Yeah, agreed, man. You look at the experience numbers and it's very close. Newsom, a couple more fights. Fernie with a few more minutes. Journey obviously has been in the UFC, has fought 16 minutes in the UFC cage for only 2 minutes for Garcia. And I think it's important to note that this guy Weems that Garcia fought came in and missed weight by like 3 pounds for a contender series fight. I mean, that's a huge red flag because you're not getting a fucking contract if you come in there and you miss weight. So that's like pointless to even show up almost, because unless you go in there and just have a spectacular performance, maybe you get invited back at best. So I don't know if this guy Weems was ready. I don't know if he took it on short notice, but obviously the quality of opponent there just wasn't there. And when you go back to the fights before that, this guy's, in split decisions against, slightly better than 500 fighters, regional scene guys. And Newson, like you said, he came in and had a really good performance against Ricardo Ramos in his debut, knocked out Pilardi, and then Randy Costa kind of threw this lazy jab, but then the massive right head kick was behind that jab, and Newson ducked right into it. So I mean, like, Costa can absolutely get you early, But Fernie, like you said, he's a good boxer. He's pretty heavy on that lead leg, and we've seen some guys, in particular Ryan Hayes, have a lot of success kicking the hell out of his lower leg. But Fernie relies on that boxing and that wrestling to win minutes. And I think he can actually do both against Journey. Journey's a little more of like a karate taekwondo style striker, while Fernie's just more of a traditional boxing style. We saw Fernie go into that Weems fight on the Contender Series and start to pick up that front leg a little bit, not be so heavy on it so that people can't, exploit the fact that he is a boxer who's more likely to be heavy on that lead leg. Definitely liked what I've seen out of both of these guys' conditioning. And I think that this fight is probably going to go the distance. But they're both, like you say, Garcia, the better wrestler, Newson, the better Brazilian jiu-jitsu player. Garcia will probably be better with his hands, while Newson will be the guy probably doing more with kicks. It feels like a really close fight. And when you look at the numbers and compare them side by side, strength of schedule, size, experience, striking, grappling, it looks really close. It feels like a coin flip fight.
Yeah, it does, but the odds don't really seem that way. It was Fernie Garcia who opened up -150. He actually shot down to -180. He's currently back to -152. And Journey Newson opened up +130 and went all the way up to +155 for a while, and now he's back to +132. Like, I feel like this is a very close fight. I like you said, I'm impressed with both guys, but I just don't really see how anybody could be this big of a favorite in a fight like this. I feel like it's going to be very close and competitive. So we see the fight goes to decision -140. The fight doesn't go to decision is +130. Any strong lean on that?
I kind of like the fight goes, but I can always cheat, Brady, and kind of look at the prop template here and see what the prop template's telling me in terms of fight doesn't go or fight goes here. And, I'm seeing, it does seem like there's a little bit of value on the fight doesn't go to decision here. 2 of 4 combined losses for these guys inside the distance, 13 of 24 combined fights inside the distance. The prop template's really not screaming that we got much here, to be honest with you, but it would lean that the fight doesn't go, has a little more value on it.
Yeah, and then we also have like other props like Garcia inside the distance +240. Garcia, I know some people in the chat really liking that Garcia by decision +190. If Garcia wins, I think by decision would be the way to go. I definitely don't see him submitting Newson. And really, he's not much of a knockout guy. Again, he had that one knockout his last fight, but other than that, just a decisionator. So yeah, I think the plus 190 for Garcia by decision would be the way I'd look if I was leaning that way.
Absolutely. If you're on Garcia, bet him by decision. Dude, Journey Newson has a chin on him. And I mean, anybody that got kicked by that Randy Costa right leg would have went to sleep. So, but if you watch that Ramos fight, he's getting hit with spinning elbows, straight shots, jump knees, and he's eating them like flapjacks and throwing back. So Fernie doesn't have the kind of power that Randy Costa does. So yeah, I think fight goes to decision is a good look here. This guy Garcia is clearly tough, and he's a good minute winner too. He can win with his hands. He can get takedowns and win minutes on top. So I like the fight. I mean, with my eyes, I like the fight goes, but it's just right now with where the lines are, it's telling us that there's a little bit more value on the fight doesn't go, but my eyes are telling me fight goes.
Yeah, I would lean towards the fight going as well. We got Blood Money in the chat. What is up, Blood Money? Tim in the chat as well. Looks like Tim's going to Vegas there, or you're leaving Vegas. There you go. So hopefully you had fun out there, Tim. And we got Jay saying Newson scorecards equals no action. I don't hate that, depending on what the line is, right?
Yeah, that's a really good look there, Jay. I like that a lot because, like I say, this guy Newson is very durable, and I don't see Fernie bringing the kind of power that would knock him out. So if there's somebody to get a finish here, and Journey's already an underdog, kind of feels like you could free roll with that at like plus 150 potentially or better. So I kind of like that.
Yeah, and those are we took 2 shots on those last week. They did not come through. They both pushed, but I like those spots. The Vera scorecards equals no action, which should have hit 10 different times, and then the Mearshart, which wasn't close, but Jocko's not finishing anybody, right?
Oh God, yeah, he didn't even really come close. I mean, he was landing some nice shots in the first, actually, but Jocko's just such a good minute winner that he doesn't need to try to knock you out, because if he does that, he might put himself in a position where he could be vulnerable himself. And he's just so good at winning minutes that he doesn't really have to take those kind of chances. And that's exactly what we saw him do once again.
Yep, for sure. Just a classic Jocko performance. But we'll move on to the next fight. We have Ariana Carnelossi going against Lupi Godinez. We have Carnelossi, 29 years old, 5'2", with a 61-inch reach. Lupi Godinez, 28 years old, 5'2", with a 61-inch reach. Carnelossi, she is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. She lost to Angela Hill in the 3rd round, and then next she bounced back with a win against Liang Na, which, by the way, I cannot wait for the return of Liang Na. Very, very fun and exciting fighter, and probably one of the best fights of the year in that fight. It was just so exciting, and Liang Na kind of blew her gas tank out in the 1st round, and then Carnelossi was able to take over early 2nd and then finish her early 2nd round there. And then against Estela Nunez, kind of a come-behind win where Estela Nunez was picking her apart for the majority of the fight. She's able to take down Estela Nunez and submit her in the 3rd round. Lupi Godinez, she has 3-2 in her last 5 fights. She made her debut against Jessica Penne, lost it by split decision. I thought she won that fight. A lot of people did as well. Then she submits Silvana Gomez Juarez in about a couple minutes, and then she loses a decision to Luana Carolina on short notice, up a weight class, no shame in that. Then she bounces back against Luma, Luke Boomy, and Weezy. Just another fight that I feel like is very close. I'm impressed with both fighters. You have Carnelossi, who you will not find a 115-pound female anywhere else in the world that is this jacked. Like, I don't know. And she keeps posting on Twitter and stuff saying she gets tested like a lot. So she wants people to stop saying she looks like she's on steroids. But if you saw a picture of her, you can see why people are saying that, because my goodness, this girl is jacked city. But yeah, she's a black belt in like a couple different martial arts. I know black belt in BJJ. And she's, pretty well-rounded. The striking's okay. She is very hittable, but she's tough. She hits hard. And I do like what I see out of Carnelossi. On the flip side, I like what I see out of Lupi Godinez as well. The striking's definitely a work in progress. It's decent. But Lupi's wrestling's very, very good. She used it in her last fight against Loma, taking her down, controlling her. I like that. This seems to be a very well-matched fight, I think. Weezy, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, agreed. And it looks like Carnelossi's been pulling a plow. I mean, like she's yoked. I mean, she's absolutely yoked. And it's kind of crazy because somebody just mentioned it in the chat. Her conditioning for somebody that has as much muscle mass as her is really good, so you got to mention that. That's a nice combination to have strength and conditioning, especially at this level. Those are 2 good things to have, especially at this weight class. But, you look at the tail of the tape, it's very similar. Same reach, same height. They're a year apart. It's Carnelossi who's more experienced, 7 more fights. But check it out. It's actually Godinez who has more minutes in the cage. But Carnelossi definitely about 4 more years as a pro. They have similar amounts of time in the UFC cage and UFC fights. It's Lupi who's not as good of a finisher. 28% finish rate for Lupi in 7 wins, while Carnelossi has a 78% finish rate in 14 wins. I believe that would either be 10 or 11 wins inside the distance. And then Carnelossi's been finished in both of her losses, and Lupi's never been finished. So in terms of the striking, I kind of like Lupi in the striking and the grappling, and here's why. Lupi's got nice hands. She's a good boxer. When you go and you watch her pre-UFC tape against Sam Hughes, for instance, you really see her, and you hear the announcers talking about her as if she's a pure boxer, and she's heavy on her lead leg. She throws in combination. She's quick. She gets her hands back to her face after she throws, so the technique is all there. But what I really like about Lupi is the commitment to the wrestling. 42 takedown attempts in 4 fights, Brady. You can't buy that, dude. That's awesome. That's 10 and a half takedown attempts per fight. And she's getting them at a 35% clip, averaging 4.57 takedowns per 15 minutes, 46% control time for, 16% control time against. And Ariane is out controlling her opponents 33% to 12%. But Ariane has been taken down 3 out of the 4 attempts that have been attempted on her. So she's showing a 25% takedown defense, while Lupi's showing a 78% takedown defense. And Lupi was fighting some bigger girls like Luana. So I think that Lupi can win minutes on the feet, and I think that she can win minutes on the ground here. So, and we look at the strength of schedule here, at least in the UFC, Carnelossi against Nao Liang, Estela Nunez, not top-notch flyweights or strawweights there, but definitely Angela Hill is one hell of a way to be introduced to the UFC, your debut. And she had a credible performance in that fight. And if it weren't for the cut stoppage, that would have went the full 3. Ariane was not winning that fight, but like I say, she was much smaller than Angela Hill and held her own on the feet. So I'm definitely leaning Godinez here. I love Godinez's wrestling, and I don't like Carnelossi's takedown defense at this point. So I think it's going to be Lupi Godinez by decision here.
Yep, I think that can definitely happen. I just completely disagree with this line. I know Blood Money's in there saying it should be a pick, and I'm kind of leaning towards that. Lupita Godinez opened at -150. She got all the way down to -205. She's currently -200. Carnelossi opened up +130, and she's currently +170. I don't know. I agree. I think the striking is going to be pretty close. And then in terms of the takedowns, I think Godinez can get her down. But, Carnelossi, like I said, she is a black belt. I feel like it's going to be a really close fight. But a bet I really do like, we talked about in the last fight, but the scorecards equals no action for Carnelossi is something I'm going to be taking a long look at. I don't think, has Lupi knocked anybody out, or does she have one knockout?
I think she has one knockout and one submission, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just go back and look. Okay. Yes, one of each.
Okay, one of each. And then Carnelossi, she's finished all but one of her wins, right?
Yeah, and she's knocking these girls out. She does have she has 2 wins by submission, but all the rest, and I think that would be 8 or 9, Brady, are by knockout. So, a lot of power. And I mean, obviously you look at the girl and you could tell she has power.
Yeah, so I'm thinking the scorecards equals no action here for this one on Carnelossi. I think it's going to be plus money. She's a big dog here, so I'm kind of liking that. Lupi by decision seems like the most likely outcome, which is plus 105.
Yeah.
It's better than -200, but you'd like a little bit better price on that. But yeah, I feel like it's Lupi decision, potentially Carnelossi finish. But yeah, the scorecards no action would be the one spot that sticks out. Other than that, I can't get to -200 on Lupi there. It'd be dog or pass if anything, most likely passing, but I will be looking at that scorecards equals no action. The over 2.5 is -275. The under 2.5 plus 215. The fight goes to decision -240. The fight doesn't go to decision plus 180. So the bookmaker's definitely thinking this goes to decision. It most likely does, but that is a lot of juice to lay.
It is a lot of juice to lay, and it's a lot of juice to lay on Loopy just on the money line too. And that's one of the reasons I feel like I've been pretty successful this year is, I've been staying away from these juiced women's favorites. I did break one of my own rules this week, but wasn't on this fight. So, yeah, I'm going to probably stay away from this one. I think Loopy wins this. I think she wins it by decision, but at plus 105 for the decision bet and minus 200 on the money line, I'm going to be staying far away.
Yeah, for sure. We got a dono, Boston Nick, which by the way, Nick, hopefully you can't really get your phone back yet, but Boston Nick sounds like he lost his phone in the lake today. So he said it's 30 feet down. So Nick, hopefully you get a new phone, man. That's terrible. But he says to the window, to the wall, the sweat drips off.
I think we know what that means. I think we know where he's going with that. And where else Nikki Fish Tanks is always going is taking care of business on those live streams for the UFC Pub Sports Radio, donating to the channel. You got to give it up for Nikki. This guy's a legend.
He's a class act. He is a class act. But yeah, man, it sucks about your phone, dude. It sounds like a bad day. Hopefully it gets better. Hopefully you get a new phone there. So move on to the next fight. We have Clayton Rodriguez going against CJ Vergara. We have Rodriguez, who is 26 years old, 5'6" with a 67-inch reach. CJ is 30 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. It's going to be Rodriguez 4 years younger, same height, and then it's going to be Vergara with a 1-inch reach advantage. Clayton Rodriguez is going to be making his debut in the UFC. He is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. CJ Vergara, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, did make his debut against Ode Osborne. It was a really close fight. So Osborne clearly won the first round, I thought. I thought the second round was very, very close. I was actually edging CJ Vergara until the very last couple seconds where Ode was able to get him down. I think Vergara kind of slipped and then Ode almost took his back or something, was kind of punching at the end. I think that stole the second round. And then the third round was, almost a 10-8 potentially, but Vergara dominated that third round and looked really good in it. This is a very good fight. Two guys that are pretty solid. You have Clayton Rodriguez. This guy's striking is phenomenal. He was a guy that was supposed to fight, I believe it was Zaruk Adashev a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago at this point. I'm not sure what happened there. I think either he pulled out or Zaruk pulled out, but would have been a good fight there. But this guy, Rodriguez, this guy's a phenomenal striker. He mixes it up really well. This guy's the definition of mixing it up on the feet, to the body, to the head, to the legs especially. So I do think he has a lot of attacks on the feet, whereas you have CJ Vergara, who does have some leg kicks, but he's going to come forward and he's going to try to land very hard shots on Rodriguez. We are in the big cage this week, and I think the big cage is going to favor somebody like Rodriguez, who's going to want to mix it up, who's going to want to stay on the outside, and Vergara is going to want to definitely get on the inside, potentially even take down Rodriguez at some point. But, we're going to talk about it in a little bit. We see Rodriguez as a huge favorite, and I like him to win, but I just don't really see it that way. I see it being, fairly competitive, but I absolutely got to go Rodriguez here. I like his striking a lot. I think he has more tools on the feet, and he's 26. He's 26. We're going to see massive improvements out of this guy, and I think he has a very high ceiling. So I like Rodriguez, but it's a big price tag, Weezy.
It is. But you might want to bet him if you go and you watch that last Contender Series performance against Santo Curatolo. He looked fantastic in that fight. I mean, the variety of strikes that he was throwing. He keeps a real wide stance and he covers distance really well. He throws with a ton of power. That dude Curatolo had a serious chin on him because Clayton was putting it on this dude. Jump knees, elbows, spinning shit. Spinning heel kicks to the head that were catching him and I thought would have put out other people. And Vergara, we've seen, the performance against Ode Osborne was great. I tried to watch the Bruno Correa knockout win on the Contender Series, but UFC Fight Pass is pathetic, man. The fact that these guys, you can pay for this service, you pay for it. And then you go there on fight week and literally you can't watch the fights of the people that are fighting that week. What the hell are we paying for there? That pisses me off seriously. And I wish that UFC Fight Pass would do something about that, because when they tell you that a UFC fight is unavailable, it's like, unavailable how? You're the UFC. If I can't watch it on UFC Fight Pass, where the fuck am I supposed to go? So anyway, sorry I had to rant about that, but Clayton's actions kind of jump off the page when you watch him, man. I mean, he's spectacular. He's explosive. CJ, on the other hand, is a pressure fighter. He walks forward. He gets hit a lot, but he's very tough and he's got a good chin. In the fight against Jacob the Animal Silva on the regional scene, which was a 5-round championship fight, he found himself in a whole heap of trouble earlier, eating some big shots from Silva, but he soldiered through it. The fight could have been stopped, I think, at a couple of different times, but CJ's seriously tough, and it's going to take like a shovel to get this guy out of there. He's got a lot of heart, and he's got really good conditioning, and the kid's got a lot of fight in him. But I think that the skill gap here is kind of huge. This guy Clayton, when you just watch him, he looks like he's on another level, and he's still only 26 years old. Both of these guys are listed at 5'6", but when you see these guys fight other opponents, I'm going to get the feeling that Clayton Rodriguez is going to be much bigger than this dude. I think Vergara has fought the better regional scene competition thus far. So this line is interesting where it is right now because, Clayton's younger. I think he's more explosive. He's definitely going to have more power. And his grappling is pretty good. He's been taken down 2 times by a guy in Santo Curatolo who's known for his wrestling, but he was only controlled for 2.33% of the 15 minutes he was in the cage. So this guy got taken down twice, and one of them was from a really nice body lock takedown that he got his back slammed straight to the mat, and he was back up 15 seconds later. It was really impressive, Brady. So I think Clayton's going to be better all around here. Loved the conditioning. He was going at it to the last second of that Santo Curatolo fight, was trying to finish it in the last 15 seconds with big explosive actions. He's got conditioning. He's got power. He's got good grappling. He's still only 26 years old, getting better every day. CJ, I think, is going to be tough. I think he's going to be an extremely tough out to get out of there. And I think he's going to scrap till the very end of the fight, but I think he's just at a skill and size differential here that is going to be too much for him to make up. I think Clayton Rodriguez is going to get the job done here, but the line, like you said, man, it's a little bit wide.
Yeah, I think Rodriguez gets it done. And yeah, I do like the get-up game of Rodriguez, the ground game of Rodriguez. I don't think his takedown defense is great, but the get-up game is phenomenal. You're not holding this guy down. So, yep, I think it does primarily play out on the feet. And at that point, you do got to favor Rodriguez. But, we'll take a look at the line, and we see that Rodriguez opened up as a minus 220 favorite. He's currently minus 265. Vergara opened up plus 185. He is currently plus 225. And then we do not have any fight goes or fight doesn't go, but we have the over 2.5 is minus 125. The under 2.5 is minus 105. I'd actually lean towards the over 2.5. I think Rodriguez is very dangerous, very good, but like you said, Vergara is very, very tough, has a great chin on him. So I kind of like the over at minus 125. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, let's have a quick look at that prop template and see if it's telling us anything about that, because I have over 2.5 at minus 125, Brady, you say?
Yeah, the over 2.5 is minus 125.
So at that line, right, that's an implied probability of 55.56%. But flyweight fights go over 2.5 63.8% of the time. So at the current line of minus 125, the divisional finish rate versus the implied probability of the line, we're getting an 8.25% edge. So our eyes are telling us that we like the over, and the prop template is telling us that how it's priced according to these guys' finish rates and according to the divisional finish rates is that it's got some value there as well, my friend.
Yeah, it's one of those fights where it's going to look like it's going to finish a bunch. You got to think, I feel like Rodriguez is going to land a bunch of really good shots, but I just think Vergara is tough enough to kind of, make it to decision at the very least. But yeah, I like Rodriguez here quite a bit, but maybe a parlay piece potentially, but, minus 265 is definitely up there.
Yeah, and check this out, Brady.
Yep.
12 of 21 of these guys combined pro fights have finished inside the distance. That's only 57%. It's not like this huge number where you're like, oh, I better stay out of the way of that. So these guys are finishing at about, a similar rate than you would expect people to be finishing on the regional scene. But only 1 out of 4 of these guys' combined losses has been inside the distance. So yeah, that over 2.5 looks like a nice spot that has a little bit of value on it thus far.
Yeah, I like it. Dan saying 100 people in here. Dan saying smash the like button. We have 194 of you in here hanging out with us on a Sunday. If you guys can smash the like button, let's try to get those likes up. Let's try to get to 100. Let's try to get to 100 by the time we get out of here. We got Victor hanging out. Hello, Brady Weezy in chat. What is up, Victor? And then we got a dono in the chat from Sean Kunkel. What is up, Sean? 501 saying, let me get it's going to be May from DFS or Weezy. Happy May. Pay-per-view around the corner. Keep up the good work. You guys rock. Hashtag Cleveland, Ohio. Thank you, Sean, for the dono. Weezy, can you give him it's going to be May?
It's going to be May, and it is May, man. It's May 1st. We got a pay-per-view coming up the very first week of May. Hey, spring's coming. You know, where you and I live, it hasn't even gotten warm yet, Brady, so we got to be looking forward to this, you know. Spring has sprung. The UFC has a killer pay-per-view on the first week of May. So yeah, it's May.
It is May, and it's going to be a phenomenal May because we're kicking it off with a card like this. And then next month, we have 275, which I cannot wait for as well. So lots of great fights coming our way this summer. Move on to the next fight. We have Tracy Cortez going against Melissa Gatto. I am actually really looking forward to this fight. We have Cortez, who is 28 years old, 5'5", with a 65-inch reach. Gatto, 25 years old, 5'5", with a 69-inch reach. Gatto's going to be 3 years younger, and Gatto's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. Cortez, she is 5-0 in her last 5 fights on a very good win streak. You know, win outside the UFC against Erin Blanchfield, a very competitive fight there. Win against Maria Agapova, win against Vanessa Mello, Stephanie Egger, which is a win that is aging very well. And then a decision against Justine Kish. Split decision, I thought she clearly won the fight there. Melissa Gatto, she is 4-0 and 1 draw in her last 5 fights. So, yeah, this is a very interesting fight. So I didn't know a ton about Melissa Gatto prior to her debut against Victoria Leonardo. It was really weird that, you know, there was not a ton of footage out there on Melissa Gatto. And then she had not fought since like 2018. And she had fights scheduled throughout that, 3-year stretch or so. And they kept getting canceled. And she finally makes her debut against Leonardo. So last time I saw her before the Leonardo fight was against Carol Hoza. And she was like 21, 22 years old. And I also was able to watch the City Rocha fight as well, which was a draw. And by the way, if you go back and watch that City Rocha fight, I thought she clearly won or clearly lost 30-27. Rocha was able to get her down in every single round. I think Rocha had to have controlled her for like 14 minutes of that fight, but somehow it was a draw there. So I think she should not be undefeated, but that's besides the point. She submitted Carol Hoza off her back, but what I was able to see before the Victoria Leonardo fight was she had 0 takedown defense. I saw literally 0 strike. I don't think I saw her land a punch in the tape I watched before the Leonardo fight. And then she comes out against Leonardo. I'm like, who the heck is this? I mean, she was 25 years old at the time against Leonardo. She looked like a completely different fighter from those 3 years off. She showed very good striking. I'm like, the striking came out of nowhere. I literally have not seen her throw a strike, but her striking looked really good. She even broke the arm of Leonardo in the first round as well. I was able to get that broken arm stoppage after the second round there. So her striking looked really good, and it was kind of the same thing against Ciara Eubanks. I was pretty confident in Ciara Eubanks. Luckily, I did not bet it, but I thought Eubanks was going to be able to take down Melissa Gatto every single round. Eubanks a black belt, very good on top, and it was kind of looking that way. And then we know Eubanks, the weight cut, she slowed down as the fight went on. And, Gatto was actually having success against Eubanks on the feet and eventually knocked her out in the third round. So, the striking, it looked non-existent prior to the UFC, but her striking actually has really, really impressed me. But there are some things I still do not like about Gatto. The takedown defense is a serious concern, a serious liability, especially in a fight here against Cortez. And then on top of that, she's very active off her back, threatening submissions, but I think in this spot especially, I think she's going to be kind of submission or bust against Tracy Cortez, who's a very good wrestler, very good top control. She's willing to wrestle, and I like that. She's not going to want to stand with Gatto, but I kind of feel like, Tracy Cortez is going to come in here. She's going to take down Gatto. She's going to stay on top, stay safe for 15 minutes. But it's kind of a tricky fight because Gatto, like I said, on the feet, I think she's going to have an advantage. And then Gatto, very dangerous off her back, very active. She's going to throw up submissions. So I guess the question is, can Cortez stay safe for 15 minutes? If so, I think she looks like a pretty big favorite here and wins by decision. But if Gatto wins, you got to believe she's either catching Cortez in something. But I kind of do like the Cortez side here. Weezy, which way you lean on this one?
Yeah, so Gatto's got a nice little size advantage. Tail of the tape here, 4 inches of reach, and she's 3 years younger. They both have 10 pro fights. Cortez has got about 35 more minutes in the pro cage, but Gatto, about 6 more months as a pro. But Cortez, about 40 more minutes in the UFC cage and 2 more UFC fights. You see, Cortez has only finished 2 of her 9 wins inside the distance, while for Gatto, it's 6 of 8. So Gatto's the much better finisher here. And Tracy Cortez has been subbed in her only loss. Melissa Gatto has never lost before, so she's never been finished. Excuse me. So when we look at the striking numbers, they're both impressive here. But both of these ladies are spending around 50% of their fights in control time positions for or against. So with Tracy Cortez, it's about 46, 47%. And with Melissa Gatto, it's about 65% of her 2 fights have been taking place in control time positions for or against. So Gatto does have a knockdown, though, so we got to give her the power advantage here. And plus, she's, the more natural finisher here. Tracy Cortez is a minute winner, while Melissa Gatto is definitely a moment winner. And we look at the wrestling numbers. This is what's most impressive about what we've seen from Tracy so far. 12 takedowns out of 26 attempts, 46% on her takedown. She's averaging 3 takedowns per 15 minutes, out-controlling her opponents 42% to 4.5%. So almost a 10-to-1 ratio there, very close to like a 9-to-1. She gets 9 seconds of control time for every 1 second of control time that she yields to her opponents. So Tracy is dangerous on the mat. She's got great ground and pound when she gets into advantageous positions. And love her entries on the takedowns, and her cage wrestling is fantastic. And she's coming out of Fight Ready MMA. She's training over there with Eddie Cha and Santino DeFranco. And we know that the one thing that Fight Ready does better than anybody else is that cage wrestling. The ability to be able to put your opponents back up against that cage, land dirty boxing, drag your opponents to the ground and just kind of win a ton of minutes there. That's where she's going to be at her best. But you mentioned it, Brady. Man, Melissa Gatto, did she look fantastic after that break? Because, it was really hard to see her, like, how the hell was she going to beat Victoria Leonardo after, spending so much time on her back against Hossa and then the City Rocha fight, But she's made some serious improvements to her striking. She's very dangerous from her back. So even though Tracy Cortez is about a -170, -180 favorite, Gatto's got a path here. But we've seen Tracy Cortez do really well against Erin Blanchfield, against Stephanie Egger. These are a couple of women who are really good on the ground, very dangerous getting submissions. And she handled both of them quite well, I thought. So I think that this is going to be Tracy Cortez. I really do think that she's got a fantastic mixed martial arts game right now that is going to be winning a lot more fights than she loses. And she's a fantastic minute winner, a fantastic wrestler, and she has the conditioning to push that pace for the full 3 rounds. The one thing I'm worried about, though, she missed weight last time against Justine Kish by a half pound at 126. So once she weighed in at 126.5. So got to make sure that Tracy makes weight and looks good on the scale. But if she does, I think she's going to win this fight.
Yeah, and I had a big bet against it was against Justine Kish in her last fight on Cortez. Forget the line I got it at, but yeah, Kish dropped Cortez in the 3rd round. I don't know what happened there, but yeah,
it looked kind of like it looked kind of like a slip. I mean, she landed it good. Cortez went down, but she bounced right back up.
Yeah, she was fine. But we'll take a look at the line. Cortez opened up -225. She's currently -175. And Melissa Gatto opened up +190. And it's currently +150. So my feelings on the line here, I think that, Cortez absolutely should be the favorite because she has all the minute winning ability, in my opinion, because, Cortez is not going to come out here and strike with Gatto for 15 minutes. We know what Cortez is going to do. Gatto knows what Cortez is going to do. And Cortez is going to take down Gatto and control her a lot. The problem is, Gatto is going to be very active off her back. She's going to throw up submissions. I think if Gatto wins, it's probably inside the distance, but, Cortez should be the minute winner here. I do want to take a look at these props. So Cortez by decision would interest me. Looks like it is +135. And then this is another spot where I don't mind the scorecards equals no action on the Gatto side. Gatto is a finisher. I don't see her winning minutes here. I think if Gatto wins, it could be maybe a TKO. She's dangerous on the feet, or a submission off her back. But I think Cortez by decision is the most likely outcome here, Weezy. Any thoughts on the props? If you see the fight goes -180, and then the fight doesn't go, is +150.
Yeah, dude, first of all, that another great call on the scorecards equals no action. You got Gatto, a 75% finisher and 8 wins, and Cortez has been subbed in her only loss. And you know what I mean? Even in that Aaron Blanchfield fight, Aaron had her in an armbar for like 4 minutes, so it could happen. It could absolutely happen. And I don't know why Gatto was off for so long, Brady, but I'll tell you something. When she came back 2 years later, she looked like a different fighter. She looked bigger. She looked stronger. She looked a lot more skillful. So I don't know if she just got a really good doctor down there, got some really banging supplements, or if she's just been, living in the gym and just getting better because she's young. But whatever it is she's doing, she should keep doing it because she's looked really good in her first 2 UFC fights. But in terms of the props here, if we take a quick look at the prop template, it looks like all these lines are priced pretty good. Nothing's really jumping off the page right now for the prop template. We don't have a big sample size of UFC fights for either of these ladies. And in terms of outside the UFC, it looks like the lines are priced about as good as they can. So nothing's jumping off the page here. But that scorecards equals no action for Gatto is an interesting look.
Yeah, I'm curious to where they have that, because typically if they're a dog, like, you're going to get dog money on those scorecards equals no action. Like Marlon Vera, it was -115, but the Meerschaert was like +114, +120 when it opened. So I'm hoping maybe get that at plus money. I think that's a solid look. But other than that, Cortez by decision was the only thing that stuck out to me there. We do have some more donos. You guys are killing with the donos tonight. We have Fifi saying Justin's last title chance against Oliveira. Don't know if that was discussed already, just came in. Well, thank you for the dono. Will it be Justin's last title chance against Oliveira? I don't know. How old is Justin Gaethje? He's not too old, right?
He's not too old. I mean, but he's got a good resume on him. I mean, he's been around forever. So he's just been fighting a very long time. Let me get my thing over here. And Gaethje, 33 years old. So this could be it, man. Yeah. This could be it.
It could be.
It's a pretty stacked weight class.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, thank you for the dono, Fifi. Can't wait to break down that main event. And then we got Lou. I'm not going to say your last name, but Lou, I know you're on Twitter. That name always gets me a good laugh there. But thank you for the dono, Lou. And thank you for hanging out at $9.99. Appreciate you a ton. And appreciate everybody hanging out. We just hit the 200 mark. Thank you guys so much. If you guys can hit the like button, that'd be much, much appreciated. I say we keep moving on to the next fight. And we have Francisco Trinaldo going against Danny Roberts. We have Trinaldo, who's 43 years old. He is 5'9" with a 70-inch reach. Danny Roberts, 34, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. So the biggest thing in this matchup that sticks out to me is going to be the tail of the tape. Roberts, 9 years younger. Roberts is going to have both a 4-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage as well. Trinaldo, pretty small for the weight class at 5'9". Moving on to our last 5, we have Trinaldo, who is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Bobby Green. Decision win against John McDessie. Knockout win against Jai Herbert, decision lost against Muslim Salikov, and then a decision win against Dwight Grant. As far as Danny Roberts, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, a decision win against David Zawada, submission loss against Claudio Silva, a knockout loss against Michel Pereira, a knockout win against Salim Imadaev, and then a split decision win as a pretty big dog against Ramazan and even his last fight out. So, yeah, Weezy, like I said, the tail of the tape sticks out the most. But other than that, this fight should play out pretty close and competitive, and the line is definitely indicating that. Anything stick out here?
Yeah, what sticks out here is the strength of schedule. Look at that 1.3 ratio for Trinaldo and a 0.93 for Danny Roberts. And let's just talk about like that Ramazan Amir versus Danny Roberts fight. There were not a lot of people that were happy with that decision. And I mean, like, Roberts could be 2-3 in his last 5 fights. And, with only wins over guys like David Zawada and Salim Imadaev, while he's getting finished by guys like, Hannibal Silva and Michel Pereira in 30 seconds. That was a very quick one. So I think that the first thing you have to look at here is that the fact that Trinaldo beats a guy in the UFC with an average record of 6 and 4.7, while the average record of the guy that Danny Roberts beats in the UFC has 1.14 wins and 1.86 losses. So that's a problem right here. Trinaldo has just kind of been around the block. He's seen it all. And he's fought everybody. And Danny Roberts, it's kind of hard to know where he's at right now. You know, Danny's been finishing all 5 of his losses. That's really interesting. But I mean, I don't know. What are you looking at here? Is there anything that's jumping off the page here for you?
No, I mean, honestly, it's just a fight I kind of want to stay away from because Tornado, like 43, we don't typically see that at 170 pounds. I mean, people at heavyweight can pull it off. We saw Oleinik go out there, get a win at like 43. We saw Arlovsky last night get a win in a fight that everybody thought he lost, but he still won 43. We don't typically see 43-year-olds at 170 pounds. And this guy should be a 155er, but he cannot cut that weight anymore. So, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be close. I feel like it's going to be greasy. The line indicates that it probably is going to be close and greasy. I can't bet anything on this fight, really. So I lean with the younger guy, the youth in Roberts. I like the height, the reach advantage, but you know, you can't really trust the guy. The guy has bad fight IQ. He's been finishing all his losses. I just have no confidence in this fight. So I really don't know. But yeah, the line indicates what I'm kind of thinking here. Minus 110 each way. No strong lean for me. Yeah, the fight goes to decision is minus 160. The fight doesn't go is plus 130. I thought that kind of jumped out to me just because Roberts has been finished in all his losses. And Roberts is a very dangerous finisher in his own right. Tornado is getting up there in age. So I thought the fight doesn't go at plus money, at least somewhat intriguing, but kind of a fight where this is like my stay away fight of the night, basically.
Yeah, I'm looking at the prop template right now, and for fight doesn't go, it's showing we're getting about a 4% edge over the implied probability of the line. That's not bad. And in 17 of these guys, 35 combined UFC fights have finished inside the distance. So it's literally right there at the finish rate for the division, which is 48.43%. These guys are finishing 48.6% of their wins. So, I mean, it's very close, so the line is actually priced pretty well here. The thing is, when you look at these two guys and you see the line that's 50-50, I think what that line is telling you is that, yeah, Trinaldo's the better fighter here. He's the 43-year-old man. He's much smaller, and Danny Roberts is kind of coming into his prime here. He's in his early 30s. He should be a favorite here. But the fact is that Trinaldo's fought the better competition. He's beaten the better competition. He's shown that he's competent literally everywhere in the cage and can win minutes literally everywhere in the cage, and he can finish fights. So Roberts, I think Trinaldo's the better fighter. You're just asking yourself, am I betting on a 43-year-old man this week?
Oh, yeah. It doesn't sound good. I mean, it worked out last night with Arlovsky, right? But
hey, man, what's his name was the ass shaving of the week a couple of weeks ago against Oleinik. Yeah. 44-year-old man got his 47th win by submission. So these crafty dudes, they find ways to do it. Otherwise, they wouldn't still be in there.
Yeah, and Trinaldo's a guy. This guy does not age. This guy's gonna fight till he's like 45. So,
he's already 60. Who the fuck are we kidding? Have you seen that dude's face, man? That's a fake birth certificate. If he's 43, I'm 43.
Exactly.
Come on, man. And I'm not 43. I'm older than that.
Oh yeah. So let's see if the 43-year-old can get it done. I don't know. It's a fight I'm not going to be too invested in whatsoever. Like, even the props don't really stick out. We do have another donor. You guys, I don't remember the last time you guys have killed it this much with the donations, but Jay, who is always hanging out each week with the $5 donation. Appreciate you, Jay. Does mean a ton. Let us move on from this fight. But we have the next fight. We have a very weird, interesting fight. We have Marcos Rogério de Lima going against Blagoy Ivanov. We have de Lima, who is 36 years old, 6'1", with a 75-inch reach. Blagoy Ivanov, 35 years old, 5'11", with a 73-inch reach. De Lima, he has 3-2 in his last 5 fights, a submission loss against Stefan Struve, a knockout win against Ben Sosoli, a submission loss to Alexander Romanov, a decision win against Maurice Green, and a knockout win against Ben Rothwell. Ivanov, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, a decision loss to Junior Dos Santos, a decision win against Ben Rothwell, a decision win against Tai Tuivasa, a decision loss against Derek Lewis and Augusto Sakai. So this is a fight I'm somewhat struggling with because Ivanov is kind of a weird fighter here. So for heavyweight especially, this guy has some of the best durability you will ever see in your life. This guy has 23 professional fights, and he's never been knocked out, and you can see why. This guy has a brick for a head, one of the biggest heads you will see in the heavyweight division. Like, this guy can eat a shot. Remember, he was eating hard shots from guys like Derek Lewis, guys like Tai Tuivasa, guys like Ben Rothwell, JDS, Augustus Sakai. He's fought some really hard hitters, and this guy doesn't get hurt. This guy does not go down. Marcus Rogerio de Lima is a very, very hard hitter, at least early on. And I like what I see from de Lima early on. He has great leg kicks. He has great power. It's just a lot of times with de Lima, once he does get out of that first round, he kind of falls off a cliff in a lot of his fights and ends up, getting submitted quite a bit. I feel like de Lima's the better fighter, at least early on. I like his striking a lot more, at least early on. It's just when this fight does get extended, and I kind of think it will, I do expect de Lima to slow down. And Ivanov does have solid cardio for the heavyweight division. He has phenomenal durability. So if de Lima does not get him out of there early, I kind of feel like Ivanov extends this fight, takes over as the fight goes on. And I feel like takedowns are actually on the table here for Ivanov. Ivanov has attempted 11 takedowns thus far in the UFC, getting over half of those at 54%, 6 of them. And de Lima has struggled with getting taken down, 53% takedown defense. Ivanov has a very sneaky submission game. He has not had a submission win yet in the UFC, but he has a bunch of submission wins outside the UFC. He was very close to submitting Derek Lewis in that fight. I feel like sneaky Ivanov submission in this fight, later the fight goes. I feel like if Ivanov can get on top of a tired de Lima, I feel like he can submit him. So I think that's a sneaky look. This fight, typically we see heavyweight fights, fight doesn't go like props at like minus 200, minus 300, minus 400. Like the Romanov fight last week, it was like minus 1,000. This is a fight where it's only like minus 140. Fight doesn't go. And I think that's because of the durability of Ivanov. But I feel like it's de Lima round 1 KO or Ivanov late. So I'm more so on the Ivanov side. But this is like a really weird fight, Weezy. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, you talked about the durability of Ivanov. And for those of you guys who don't know Blagoy Ivanov's story, he was already a very decorated mixed martial artist and a winner. But, he went to a bar in Bulgaria and got stabbed in the heart. Stabbed in the heart. You go to a Bulgarian bar, that there's like a 20% chance that that's going to happen anyway. But it actually happened to Blagoy. And, obviously he was told by his doctor, no, of course you can't fight again. And did Blagoy listen? No, because the kind of person who gets stabbed in the heart and then comes back and fights Junior Dos Santos, is the kind of guy that's going to be very difficult to finish. And, but de Lima, though, in the UFC has 5 losses, and all 5 of them are inside the distance. So I think that this is an interesting way to play it. You could do Blagoy inside the distance instead of going for the fight doesn't go to decision, or you could go but I think the fight doesn't go to decision is a good bet because Rogerio de Lima is very front loaded. And if anybody can knock somebody out, it's him. And he does throw with a ton of power, but because he throws 100% power into all of his strikes, he doesn't last long in fights. So that's why we've seen him kind of go to his wrestling a little more recently because he can win minutes that way. But he's not going to be taking down Blagoy Ivanov and winning minutes on the ground against this guy. There's no chance of that happening. So, Blagoy's better everywhere. We haven't seen Blagoy Ivanov, though, in 2 years. So that's a little bit concerning. But that being said, I think Blagoy Ivanov, the money line is a good bet. I think Blagoy Ivanov inside the distance is even a better bet because even though we haven't seen Blagoy finish any fights at the UFC level, he's basically finished everything outside of the UFC. And, he's an equal opportunity finisher. He's getting submissions. He's getting knockouts. And you would need a gun to get this guy to get him out of there. A knife in the heart wasn't enough to stop Blagoy Ivanov. So I don't think that Rogerio de Lima is going to be stopping him. And if he did, I'd be very surprised. Fight doesn't go to decision feels good here. Blagoy Ivanov inside the distance feels very good here.
Yeah, not only did he get stabbed, like, wasn't it like he got stabbed a ton? Like, wasn't it like 15 times or something like that?
Oh, it was a lot, but like I said, this is in Bulgaria. So he probably knew that he was going to get stabbed at least 2 times just for going into a bar. But, yeah, dude, the guy his durability is absolutely legendary. His toughness is absolutely legendary. And people forget because he has those qualities that he's a very good wrestler and that his striking is very good, and he's got knockout power in both hands too. So, yeah, this is I like Ivanov a good amount here, but I'm just a little bit worried. We haven't seen him in 2 years.
Yeah, so the last time we saw him was against Augusto Sakai, and that was back in May 30th, 2020. So yeah, I'm not sure what was up with the layoff because prior to that he was active.
Yeah, I'll take a look and see if there have been fights that have been called off, but I don't remember,
No,
like getting close to a Blagoy Ivanov fight. Do you?
no, not that I can recall.
I don't even
So
think he's had anything called off.
hmm.
Marcin Tybura, 2021 March, he was supposed to fight Tybura. That was called off. Ivanov injury. So
Oh,
there's something going on with Ivanov.
okay, yeah. Let's take a look at this line and Ivanov is minus 151, opened at minus 170. De Lima opened up plus 145. He's now plus 131. So this is what intrigues me the most. The fight goes to decision plus 100. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 130. Like that, it just I know Ivanov's been to decision in all of his fights, but that seems like we're getting some value there.
Yeah, so the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 125. It's a 55.56% implied probability, but 63% of heavyweight fights finish inside the distance. So right there, that's about a 7.91% edge over the divisional finish rate here. But and 35 of these guys, 50 combined pro fights have finished inside the distance. That's 70%. So that's actually like a 14.4% edge over the implied probability of the line. But when we look at the combined UFC finish rates, 11 of 18 of these guys combined UFC fights have finished inside the distance, 61%. So that's actually better than the implied probability of the fight doesn't go line. So it looks like there's a lot of value on that fight doesn't go. But is it going to be De Lima getting the finish, or is it more likely going to be Ivanov getting the finish? And I think that you might just want to play the Ivanov finish line here and count on this dude's durability.
Yeah, it looks like De Lima's only been to decision twice in the UFC. De Lima's had 13 UFC fights. So
Exactly. 13 UFC fights, 11 finishing inside the distance, all 5 losses and 6 of 8 wins. And the wins that he didn't finish inside the distance were he was laying praying on top of guys like Maurice Green. So he's not doing that to Ivanov.
No, there's a big difference between Ivanov and Maurice Green, that's for sure. But yeah, Ivanov inside the distance plus 250.
Really?
Yeah, plus 250.
Where's that?
5 dimes.
The book that we don't have. God damn it.
We don't have. Yeah.
That's what I want for Christmas, Brady. I want a 5 dimes account with 5 figures in it, man. That's that.
Yeah, I used to have one. I used to have one a couple years ago. It was phenomenal. But
yeah, we're gonna have to move to like the Man Islands or something like that, someplace completely out of the purview of our government and everything like that, so we can just gamble legally everywhere.
Yeah, I'm down. I am down.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's move on to the next fight. And yeah, this is probably my favorite fight on the prelims. We have Brandon Royval going against Matt Schnell. We have Royval, who is 29 years old, 5'9" with a 68-inch reach. Schnell, 32 years old, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. It's going to be Royval, 3 years younger, 1-inch height advantage, and a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Royval is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Made his debut against Tim Elliott in a very fun and exciting fight. And won by submission in the second round. After that, he submitted Kai France in the second round as well. He got knocked out, that injury against Brandon Moreno in the first round. And then he lost by submission to Alexander Pantoja. And then he won a split decision against Rogerio Bontorin. Matt Schnell is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Submitted Luis Smolka, Jordan Espinoza. Got knocked out by Alexander Pantoja. Won a decision against Tyson Nam. And then lost a decision to Rogerio Bontorin. So the reason this is one of my favorite fights on the prelims, if not my favorite, is because of the style of Brandon Royval. This guy is one of the most exciting fighters in the division. I mean, that Kai France fight was so much fun. It was Kai France that hurt Royval. It was Royval that had landed like a spinning back elbow. He almost kicked him when he was down. And that fight was an absolute war. And it showed me that, Royval is not just a grappler. He's not just a black belt. This guy's striking is phenomenal. He mixes it up very well. He uses his knees, his elbows, just very dangerous on the feet, and he pressures. I like that about him. On top of that, like he made Kai France, the kickboxer, shoot in on a takedown because like Kai France couldn't take what was coming to him, and then Royval submitted him shortly after. Like his striking is absolutely no joke, and that's why I really hate this matchup for Matt Schnell, who kind of changed up his style throughout the years. You take a look at a Matt Schnell fight earlier in his career, compare it to a Bontrain or a Nam fight, and he looks like a completely different fighter. And that's because I think he knows that he does not have the chin to engage in these wars. Like this is a guy that's been knocked out 3 or 4 times in the UFC at this point. Pantoja knocked him out. He got knocked out by Sandoval, and he got knocked out by Font as well. As you've seen his last couple fights, he's like playing it safe, sticking on the outside. He's fighting really smart and winning. Well, he lost against Bontrain, but he won the Nam fight. But it's just not as exciting as you'd like to see Schnell. I think Royval is going to bring the war out of Matt Schnell. He's going to force him to be in a war. And I think Matt Schnell is in some serious trouble here. I think they're going to go chin for chin. I think they're both going to land hard shots. And I do trust the chin more of Royval. Where are people having success against Royval? And the answer to that is taking him down. This guy's takedown defense is terrible, absolutely terrible, because he's comfortable being off his back. But he's been taken down 17 times out of 28 attempts, a 39% takedown defense. And what I like about that in this matchup is that's not Matt Schnell's game. Matt Schnell has only attempted 6 takedowns, completed 2 in 9 UFC fights. I don't think he has the best offensive wrestling, and I don't think he's going to go for takedowns. So I kind of feel like Matt Schnell is going to be forced to get into a war with Royval, and I feel like Royval is going to touch the chin at some point, probably early on, and I think he's going to finish Matt Schnell. But this fight's very good. Both these guys are very dangerous. Royval is one of those fighters that, he's kind of kill or be killed. He goes in there looking for the early finish. If he does not get that early finish, we saw Pantoja was able to catch him in something. We saw he was finished by Brandon Moreno as well, but typically he is going in there and getting that finish, and I think he does finish Matt Schnell here. I think Matt Schnell gets like his 5th finish loss. Weezy, this fight's so much fun. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's so much fun, man. 21 fights for Schnell, 19 for Royval. They've got similar amounts of minutes in the cage, similar time as a pro. It's Schnell who's more experienced at the UFC level, about 35 more minutes in the cage. Both of these guys, great finishers. 85% finish rate for Royval as a pro, 66% finish rate for Schnell as a pro, and they've been finished too. Royval's been finishing 2 of 6 losses. Schnell's been finishing 4 of 6 losses. So 6 of these guys, 12 combined losses have been inside the distance. But you mentioned it. Schnell, he kind of wants to have a range boxing game these days. That's kind of like where he can win minutes and not have to worry too much about, wrestling, emptying the gas tank. And he's good off his back, too. He'll get triangles off his back, arm bars. He's a good submission grappler. But Royval throws with a lot of power, and he just kind of brings this chaos with him. He's landed 2 knockdowns in 5 fights, and he's been knocked down once in 5 fights. So, a lot of over 1% of the strikes that are landed in his fights are resulting in knockdowns, either for or against. So, and he's gotten 2 takedowns just like Schnell has, but he's given up 17, and Schnell has given up 7. But there's really nobody in the flyweight division in the UFC over a 9-fight sample size that has managed to get less control time than Matt Schnell, 1.08%. So he's not trying to get takedowns, and even when he does get them, he doesn't really do much with them. He probably's got about 30 seconds of control time on each one of those takedowns that he's gotten. So Royval has been fighting the better competition. He's been beating the better competition and even losing to the better competition. He's got more power. He's the younger man, but it's going to be Schnell with the 2-inch reach advantage. The experience numbers are very similar, but it's Royval who's the better finisher. I think he's going to be the more dangerous submission grappler as well. And, I think Royval's a lot more durable than Schnell is. Royval got hurt in the Pantoja fight. That's why he got finished there. Very awkward shoulder injury or arm injury there. But Schnell, dude, he's been finished in 3 of his 4 UFC losses via knockout, and he's been finishing 4 of his 6 pro losses. So with the pace and the chaos that Royval brings, I think it's a bad matchup for Schnell. I think he's going to get dragged into a war, and I think that this fight's going to finish inside the distance one way or another. I like the fight doesn't go here, and I like Brandon Royval to win the fight.
Yep, I like Royval as well. And hasn't Schnell had problems with the scale a couple of fights ago. There was a fight where he was like not cleared to fight or something, like he passed out backstage. Wasn't it him?
Yeah, because it was the Alex Perez fight. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
know Perez had problems, but we could take a look and see, because I know that fight got canceled twice, didn't it? And I think it might have been Schnell's.
It
Well, I
says
think
it says Schnell withdrew due to medical concerns, and then the next fight, Perez missed weight, and Schnell said he doesn't want to fight him.
yeah. So I mean, like, if he missed weight and then Schnell didn't want the fight, that's always a little bit concerning too, especially because Perez misses weight a lot. He probably knew that would happen.
Yeah, and
But
against Bontorin, it was at 135. So he has not fought at 125 since January 2021. So it's been kind of a while.
yeah, and Royval only fights at 125. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to like Royval here. A good win against Bontorin last time out. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And that win over Kai Kara France is the definition of a signature win.
It's aging very, very, very well. And so is the Tim Elliott win as well. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, no losses to Pantoja and Moreno. I mean, not like you could take anything away from them for either of those. So
heck yeah. Royval opened up minus 200. He is currently minus 260. Match now opened up plus 170. He is currently plus 220. Over under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 110. The under 2.5 minus 120. The fight goes to decision plus 150. And the fight doesn't go to decision is minus 150. I think we might be getting a discount on that because Royval's last fight did go to decision. And I think that was like around minus 200, minus 220 at some point for the Bontorin Royval fight doesn't go. And now we're getting a fight like this at minus 150. I don't hate that.
Yeah, definitely don't. It's definitely the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 125, which was the last time I typed it in. The prop template likes that is 8% better than the divisional finish rate. With 63.47%. So it's definitely I'm sorry. I'm on the heavyweight fight. The fight doesn't go to decision at minus 138. It's overpriced by 18%. The fight goes for Schnell Royval is priced up at 14% better. But then again, when you look at these guys, 9 of 14 UFC combined fights have finished inside the distance. That's 64%, and we're only paying 58% for the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 138. So that's about 6.3% better than the line. So I think that even at minus 140, minus 150, there's some value on the fight doesn't go here.
Yep, for sure. And yeah, in their losses especially, it looks like Royval has been finished in both of his UFC losses, and then Schnell's been finished, I want to say, in all but 1 or 2.
3 of 4 for Schnell. So 5 of these guys' 6 combined UFC losses have been finishes.
Yeah.
So you love seeing that for a fight doesn't go. You love seeing that you're getting a little bit of an advantage over these guys' divisional finish rates. So yeah, I like it a lot.
Sounds good. I like it too. We'll move on to our next fight. We have Norma Dumont going against Macy Chiasson. We have Norma Dumont, 31 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. Macy Chiasson, she is 30 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. Dumont is going to be a year older, and she's also going to be at a 4-inch height disadvantage and a 5-inch reach disadvantage. Macy Chiasson, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights, had that knockout win against Sarah Moore-Ass, a decision loss to Lena Landsberg, a decision win against Shanna Young, a decision win against Marion Renault, and a submission loss to Raquel Pennington. Norma Dumont, 4-1 in her last 5 fights, made her debut against Megan Anderson, lost by knockout in the first round, bounces back with a decision win over Ashley Evans-Smith, and a decision win over Felicia Spencer, and then a decision win against Aspen Ladd in one of the worst fights you'll ever see, especially for a main event. Yeah, this is a fight where I really want nothing to do with it. We'll talk about the line in a little bit, but Dumont is a very big favorite. I feel like on the feet, it's going to be pretty competitive. I like what I see from the striking of Dumont, and this is one of those fights where, she made her debut against Megan Anderson, but prior to that, there was not much tape out there on her. I want to say there was like 1 fight, maybe 2 fights out there of Norma Dumont, and basically there was no striking that was shown, and then she got knocked out by Megan Anderson, and she was actually a dog to Ashley Evans-Smith. and still there was a lot of missing information about her. And she went out there and her striking looked really good. She outlanded Ashley Evans Smith like almost 3-1. She even knocked her down at some point. She took her down twice, showed that she was well-rounded. And then she looked really good against Spencer as well. And then against Aspen Ladd came in there with a really bad game plan, but she did what she needed to do. Outstruck Ladd for the majority of that fight and then won it. But Dumont, she's pretty good. We'll talk about how her thickness is something you gotta like, especially if she can get on top here, and that's kind of where I'm leaning. I think on the feet it's going to be competitive, but where Macy Chiasson does struggle at times is getting taken down and is getting back up. Mary Renault, it was like a 44-year-old Mary Renault at the time, took down Chiasson twice. And then the Lena Landsberg fight, Landsberg was able to control her against the cage. She was able to take her down twice or 3 times in that fight and control her. And I kind of lean towards Norma Dumont doing that. Dumont, I believe, is either a brown belt or a black belt in BJJ, so she is well-rounded. Her striking's really good. But, you got to like the size of Macy Chiasson in this fight. But I do lean Dumont, but the line is just, it's kind of scaring me off here. I'm going to pass on this one, but the pick is Dumont. I think she can mix in takedowns here. But if not, if it plays out on the feet, I feel like it's going to be pretty close.
Yeah, agreed. And the size is going to be interesting because, Macy's fought a lot at 135. Norma's tried to fight at 135, but really hasn't been able to make the weight. I don't think she's made the weight yet in the UFC. So this fight will be taking place at 145. The experience numbers extremely similar here. Chiasson with 3 more UFC level fights and about 10 more minutes in the UFC cage. Chiasson 58% finish rate as a pro. She's finished just as many by knockout as she has by submission. Norma Dumont's never knocked anyone out, and she's got 2 wins by submission. In these ladies' 3 combined losses, 2 of them have been inside the distance. So Chiasson's got nice striking ratio. She's landing about 1.5 more significant strikes per minute than she absorbs, and she throws almost twice as much volume as her opponents. She's landed 2 knockdowns in 7 UFC fights, which is good, and she's never been knocked down. Norma Dumont has landed 1 knockdown 4 UFC fights. She's landing about 1.7 more significant strikes per minute than she absorbs, and she throws about 1 more significant strike attempt than her opponents do per minute. 68% striking defense for Norma Dumont, 45.57% striking defense for Macy Chiasson. So it's easy to see that both of these ladies have some power, but it's Dumont who's been a lot more defensively responsible. In terms of the takedown game, Dumont's spending a little over a third of her fights in control time positions for or against, but for Chiasson, it's almost 2/3. And Chiasson has 5 takedowns. And she's allowed 5 takedowns, but she's out controlling her opponents at almost a 2-to-1 ratio. So that's pretty impressive. So as the striking, I think, is going to be a big part of this fight, I kind of feel like it's who wins the control time positions that's going to wind up winning this fight. The strength of schedule numbers, it looks like Dumont's got a little better ratio, but Chiasson's fighting a little more experienced competition. Although the wins for Dumont are better, the losses for Chiasson are better. It's interesting, man. Dude, first of all, if you're a female ass enthusiast, this is about the best damn card of the year with Norma Dumont and Tracy Cortez on it. And then, with Macy Chiasson here, you got really more of a more masculine version of Justin Bieber here. I mean, the exact same haircut and tattoo structure. I think Macy would absolutely kick the living shit out of Justin Bieber, but that's not a surprise to anybody. It's an interesting fight. Dumont's done a really good job of keeping things standing when she wants to keep it standing. And Macy really is strong in the clinch, and she wins a lot of minutes up there against the fence. But it's going to be hard with that thickness that Dumont brings to the cage, which is really unmatched. I mean, unless you're talking about Tracy Cortez. I got to lean Norma here because I think her distance striking is going to be better, and I think she's going to kind of determine when the control time positions are entered into, and I feel like she's going to be able to win those exchanges. So I'm leaning Dumont, but this line is wide. I kind of feel like Macy's been disrespected by the odds makers for her entire run. It just seems like she's being, put down as big underdogs in fights that I feel like she's live to win these fights. I think she's live to win this one here too. She's very good. I like everything that Macy does. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's because she looks like a discount store version of Justin Bieber that she's getting disrespected in these lines. But in terms of her fighting ability, man, I don't think that this should be this wide. I think Macy's a lot better than what everyone gives her credit for.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, and I do lean with Dumont as well. I do lean with that thickness. By the way, who's thicker? Do you think Norma Dumont or Parker Porter? It's a tough question.
Oh, it's definitely Porter. I mean, come on, it's Porter. That ass has got its own gravitational pull, man. I mean, Norma's like really well proportioned. I mean, like Parker's like, that ass probably gets studied in medical school. Like, what would you do if someone came into your doctor's office like with an ass like this? What would you be looking for? So, yeah, it's definitely Parker. That's definitely thicker, man. There's no question.
Both are thick regardless, though, right?
They are, without question. Yes.
But
normal in a much better way, I would say.
No, I feel you there for sure. Dumont opened up minus 210. She's currently minus 240. Justin Bieber opened up plus 180. She's currently plus 205. Yeah, that line, it's wide, man. It looks like money is even coming in on Norma. Like, I feel like, yeah, I like her to win, but do I want to lay minus 240 on Norma Dumont? Not really. The fight goes to decision, minus 205. The fight doesn't go to decision, is plus 165. Any thoughts about that line, or the fight goes or doesn't go?
Yeah, see, the problem with the fight goes and fight doesn't go, I have to kind of put the 135-pound analytics into a 145-pound fight because there have been less than 10 fights at 140 pounds or 145 pounds in UFC's history. So in terms of these, I mean, like, I guess it's leaning fight doesn't go, but they're priced up just about right, it looks like. I wouldn't be touching the time props on this one.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be touching the fight in general, honestly. But we will move on to the next fight. I believe this is the featured prelim on the entire card. We have Randy Brown going against Khaos Williams. We have Brown, who is 31 years old, 6'3" with a 78-inch reach. Khaos Williams, 28 years old, 6 foot with a 77-inch reach. We have Khaos Williams, who's going to be 3 years younger, but it's going to be Brown, who's going to have a 3-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. Randy Brown is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, a knockout win against Brian Barberena, a submission win against Warley Alves, a knockout loss to Vicente Luque, a submission win against Alex Oliveira, and a decision win against Jared Gooden. As far as Khaos Williams, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, a knockout win against Alex Morono, a knockout win against Abdulrazak Alhassan, Weezy's favorite fighter, a decision loss against Michel Pereira, a decision win against Matthew Semmelsberger, and a knockout win against Miguel Baeza. So, I've kind of been wrong about Khaos Williams. He made his debut on short notice against Alex Morono. I remember Morono was like one of the highest owned fighters on DraftKings that week because Khaos Williams was coming in, and Morono went out there and Khaos Williams starched him in 30 seconds. And I was like, okay, maybe it was a one-off. Goes out there against Abdulrazak Alhassan. Everybody has a bet on Alhassan in round 1, the under 1.5, all the good stuff. Abdulrazak Alhassan inside the distance. I was fully expecting Abdulrazak Alhassan to knock him out in the first round. But it was actually Khaos Williams who knocked out Abdulrazak Alhassan, and that was actually the first time Abdulrazak Alhassan was knocked out. So then he kind of, got on the radar a little bit, and then he fought Michel Pereira in a very, very close and competitive fight. It was Khaos Williams that outlanded Pereira in every single round, but it was the takedowns of Michel Pereira that did edge out those rounds ever so slightly, but really close fight regardless that he lost. And I think his stock went up in that fight, actually. And then he gets a decision when he gets Matthew Semmelsberger, who Semmelsberger is very good, and then goes out there and knocks out Miguel Baeza in the 3rd round. I actually really like both these guys, but, Khaos Williams is a guy that he has a lot of things I like. This guy has good cardio. This guy has good durability. He's never been knocked out. This guy's power carries throughout the whole fight. He has a ton of power in general. But Randy Brown is a very popular dog this week. I see it. I can see why. This is a guy in Randy Brown who, honestly, he probably should be favored. I feel like he's the better fighter. I feel like he's going to be the minute winner here. But when we're talking durability, that does go in favor of Khaos Williams. And I feel like that's going to be important here. So I feel like Brown is the better striker in this matchup. But, Williams is power is no joke here. It's a really close fight, Weezy. Which way you lean on this one?
Dude, I don't know, but I know that I'm leaning that this is one of my favorite fights on this entire card, and that's saying something because this card is stacked. And I mean, Randy Brown, Khaos Williams is going to be such a banger. I really enjoy watching both of these guys. It's Brown who's got that slight experience advantage. 3 more pro fights, 20 more minutes in the pro cage, 3 more years as a pro, 7 more UFC fights, and about 80 more minutes in the UFC cage. Both of these guys are finishers. Khaos Williams, 60% as a pro, but he's finished 3 of his 4 UFC wins. So he's even finishing at a better rate in the UFC than he was on the regional scene, which is very impressive. And he's never been finished either, so very durable. We can't say the same about Randy Brown, but Randy Brown has finished 5 of his 8 UFC wins, and he's got a 79% finish rate in 14 wins. So that would be 11 out of 14 wins coming inside the distance, 6 by knockout, 5 by submission. But Brown has been finished in 3 of his 4 career losses, so he's not as durable as Khaos Williams has been. When we look at the striking numbers, both of these guys have power, but it's Khaos who's landing a knockdown on about 1.5% of the significant strikes that he lands, while for Randy Brown, it's 0.58%. So Brown is going to be probably the guy that is like the better boxer, you know, maybe the minute winner, but with Williams, you got a guy that's incredibly durable, never been knocked down in the UFC in 5 fights, and he's fighting guys like Baeza, Semmelsberger, Pereira, Al Hassan. So we cannot be questioning Khaos Williams' chin here. This guy has fought some of the heaviest hitters in the division and has never even been knocked down, much less knocked out, much less finished in his pro career. So, you know, I think it'll be close on the feet, but I just think it's going to be Khaos who's going to be the guy who has the ability to land the bigger shots. In terms of the grappling, Khaos has done a really good job of staying out of grappling situations, which is, I think, what he wants to do. 89% of Khaos Williams' 5 UFC fights have taken place at striking range, while for Randy Brown, it's about 50%. So definitely you kind of feel like Brown is going to want to get this fight to the ground in order to have the better chance to win minutes. When we look at these strength of schedule numbers, it's Brown who's fighting the slightly more experienced competition, but man, Khaos Williams, the average record, 5.4 wins, 2.2 losses, 2.45 ratio overall. And he's beating really quality opponents with winning records, 5.75 wins, 2.25 losses, 8 total fights. So Khaos Williams, I'm going to give the power advantage. I'm going to give him the strength of schedule advantage. He's 3 years younger. It's Brown who's got more experience and more UFC experience, and who's going to be the more likely guy to be able to win minutes on the ground, as Khaos Williams has only showed 50% takedown defense, and he hasn't been grappled a lot. He's only faced 4 takedown attempts in 5 fights, but Brown is not exactly a volume wrestler either. So when you look at the numbers here, it just kind of feels like unless Randy Brown lands a big shot on the feet, that it should be Khaos Williams that's the guy that's going to be more dangerous in all aspects of the game here.
Yeah, and the thing with Brown in terms of getting this fight down to the mat, I think it'd be very smart for Brown to take it down to the mat, but you see that he's only landed 7 takedowns in 12 UFC fights. You do not like to see that. And he's actually never landed more than 1 takedown in a UFC fight. And I think if he would go to the takedowns here, I would like that more. But even then, like Michel Pereira wasn't able to really control Khaos Williams. So yeah, I feel like this primarily does play out on the feet. And at that point, like I said, I think Brown could make this very competitive, even win minutes in the striking, but it's going to be Williams. It's going to be landing the harder shots. And then on top of that, the durability of Brown really scary. Like you do not want to get hit clean against Khaos Williams. And somebody said in the chat, like Khaos Williams, if I could find the comment, where is it? Oh, there it is. Yeah. Khaos Williams fights with anger, and indeed he does. I remember the Abdulrazak Al-Hassan fight. I had a bet on Abdulrazak Al-Hassan inside the distance, and then they zoom in on Khaos Williams, and this guy's foaming out of the mouth. This guy, I was like, my bet's not gonna cash. Like this guy was foaming out of the mouth with anger. So yeah, that's terrifying. But it's a close fight. But I do lean with the power of Khaos Williams. I like that it carries all 3 rounds. And you know, typically when you have guys with this much power like a Khaos Williams, you do not see guys throwing this much volume. Like he attempts 13 significant strikes per minute. You typically do not see that. You don't see guys with this much power with good cardio, and then you can carry it through all 3 rounds. So I think Khaos Williams is going to be dangerous from the very first second of this fight to the very last. I'm going to take Khaos Williams to win inside the distance, and I'm curious to see what that is. Khaos Williams on the money line is minus 125. He actually opened up as a dog, plus 105, and then Brown opened up minus 125, currently plus 105. The fight goes to decision, plus 130. The fight doesn't go to decision, minus 160. Williams inside the distance is plus 165. And Brown inside the distance is plus 275. Any thoughts on the money line? Any thoughts on any of these props, Weezy?
Yeah, dude, this is one of the ones that I was going to look into more, but I'm such a fan of both of these guys that I didn't think that when I how you look through a card at first and you kind of say to yourself, oh, I'm leaning one way or another on this particular fight, so let me start researching it. This was one where I was like, dude, there's no way that I'm going to come to a conclusion about who I like here. But after we just went through those numbers, dude, that durability of Khaos Williams really jumps off the page. And in this particular matchup, to be able to get somebody that durable with that much power at minus 125, you would say to yourself, the reason that people are betting on Brown, more experience, fought the better brand of competition, right? Wrong. Look at my strength to schedule stats. It's Khaos who's fighting the better brand of competition here. I'm going to be making a bet as we speak right now on Khaos Williams. And I'm going to also be looking to add on for Khaos Williams inside the distance at plus money.
Yeah, I like that. So Brown has been finished in, what did you say, 3 out of 4?
3 of 4. 3 of 4 losses.
I like that. I like that inside the distance call for sure. So, and I'm curious to see what like the knockout prop is as well. Does Khaos have any subs? Maybe one sub?
Let's look. Khaos Williams, nope. He's all knockouts, baby.
All right, give me that knockout.
Oh, I'm sorry, one submission. One submission as a pro. He does have one submission.
All right, there we go. I like it. This fight's good. This fight's very good.
Yes.
And let us move on to the main card. 220 of you in here. Thank you all for hanging out on a Sunday. Loving everybody hanging out here. If you guys can hit the like button, it does help out a ton here. And subscribe if you are not already to Pub Sports. We do go live every Sunday, 7:15, breaking down the card early. All right, main card here, and kind of a weird main card, but this is going to be a very fun main card. Of course, we have Ferguson, Chandler. We have the co-main event, Namajunas, Carla Esparza, and then the main event, Gaethje Oliveira. Then we have these two interesting fights in Donald Cerrone, Joe Lauzon, and then Shogun Rua and Ovince Preux. So this is the main card opener, and I'm actually really excited for this fight. I think both these guys are well past their prime, but I feel like this is one of the more exciting fights on the card potentially. We have Donald Cerrone. He was 39 years old, 6'1", with a 73-inch reach. Joe Lauzon, 37 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach. It's going to be Lauzon, who is 2 years younger, and it's going to be Cerrone, who's going to have a 3-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage as well. We take a look at the last 5 fights. Donald Cerrone is 0-4 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Knockout loss to Justin Gaethje in the first round. Knockout loss to Conor McGregor in the first round. A decision loss to Anthony Pettis. That was a very close fight. Had that draw against Nico Price that got overturned. I believe Price popped for some marijuana. And then Alex Cerrone did knock him out in the first round as well. So it's been a rough go for Donald Cerrone. We have not seen him win in a very, very long time. I think his last win wasn't his last win against Ali Quinta.
Yeah, that's Long Island's #1 real estate agent. So that's a big win. I mean, it was, like I say, dude, not just any real estate agent that he beat there. But yeah, both of these guys, I mean, you look at that last win for Joe Lauzon, and you're like, holy shit, he beat Jonathan Pierce. And then you go back and you watch that fight, and it was just a freak accident that he won that fight, So this is God, I've got a strong read on this one. And Brady, I swear to God, you need to send the orderlies to my house, because I don't think we can trust either of these guys with our money right now.
Absolutely not. Because not only that, like, Donald Cerrone has not won a fight since May 4th of 2019. He has not won in a very long time. And Joe Lauzon, I think a lot of people are just going to look and see, hey, Joe Lauzon looked really, really good in his last fight. Donald Cerrone's looked really, really bad in his last few fights, right? Like, you go back to the fight before the Pierce fight, and this guy is getting, beat bad by Chris Grutzmacher. Grutzmacher put up 128 significant strikes on him, and he actually had to call the fight off after the second round, because if it went into the third, he was going to take even more damage, and Grutzmacher was going to finish him in that third. Prior to that, this guy gets dropped by Clay Guida and finish in the first round. Clay Guida does not knock out anybody, right? Prior to that, this guy gets 10-8'd in the third round by Stevie Ray, ends up being a draw. So it was a rough stretch for Joe Lauzon. A lot of people, including me, thought he was done, right? And then he comes in there against Jonathan Pierce, like you said, he was able to take him down. Kind of a weird situation where Pierce's arm was kind of trapped, and Joe Lauzon went out there and finished him in the first round. So this is a really fun fight. You have Lauzon. This guy kind of comes out there like a madman, trying to get that early finish, which I think is interesting because Donald Cerrone is a very slow starter. Donald Cerrone's been finished early in a bunch of fights at this point. The chin of Donald Cerrone is very much in question at this point. The heart of Cerrone seems to be in question at this point as well. And then there's question marks on Joe Lauzon as well, right? Like we have not seen him fight in a very long time at this point. This is probably the definition of a 1-800-gambler fight, but I feel like this is going to be very fun. Like on paper, this feels like the perfect matchup for Donald Cerrone. Donald Cerrone has phenomenal takedown defense, nearly 90%. You got to love that. Donald Cerrone has some of the most underrated grappling in the UFC. It's underrated because he never uses it. I mean, this guy uses his striking more often than not, but his grappling is very, very good, which, Joe Lauzon, typically in his fights, he wants to get the fight down to the mat. I don't think that's going to be on the table here. And on the feet, like if you're getting hurt bad by Clay Guida, if you're getting outstruck that bad by Chris Grutzmacher, you got to think that Donald Cerrone should absolutely have the advantage on the feet. What worries me about Cerrone is going to be those first 2.5 minutes. I think Lauzon's going to come forward like a wild man trying to finish Cerrone. I think if Cerrone weathers those first 2.5 minutes, I think Lauzon slows down, and I think Cerrone finishes them at late first, early second round. I do not see this getting far. I see this being an absolute war. It's a fun fight, but my goodness, red flags here, red flags there, red flags everywhere. 1-800-gambler indeed, Weezy, but you have a strong lean. I'm curious. What are you liking here?
Yeah, so I do have a strong lean, and the strong lean is that this fight's going to finish inside the distance. So let's look at wins and losses for these guys, right? And we'll just look at the UFC because we got a big enough sample size to not care about what happened in 1853 when these guys were before they were in the UFC, right? So Joe Lauzon, 15 wins in the UFC, 87% inside the distance, right? Cerrone has got a 69% finish rate in the UFC in 23 wins. He's been finished in 62% of his 13 losses, and Lauzon's been finished in 50% of his 12 losses. So, so 62%, I think that would be probably either 7 or 8. We'll say 7 and 6. That's 13 of 25 losses coming inside the distance. But when you look at the recent losses, Lauzon basically should have been finished by Stevie Ray. He got finished by Guida. He got finished by Grutzmacher. And then you see Cerrone getting finished by Alex Morono, finished by Connor, finished by Justin Gaethje. No shame in that. The overturned fight, I believe, against Nico Price, I think was a draw.
Yep.
That was a war. And then Pettis, by unanimous decision. So I think like when people are handicapping this fight, I think it's going to be, I think 85% of the people out there that are handicapping this fight are going to say, okay, which guy's more washed? That's really what it's going to be. I mean, like, who do you think is more washed at this point? And when you're doing that kind of analysis, you probably shouldn't be betting on the fight because you're admitting that they're both washed. They're both way past their prime. Neither one of these guys is getting a title shot, so they're showing up for a paycheck on a pay-per-view card. And you got to believe that somebody's going to look for the door. Somebody's going to look for the door early, right, Brady? I mean, Is there any other angle that do you want to die on the Donald Cerrone or Joe Lauzon hill this week? I don't. I don't. I'd rather die on the hill of sand. I think both of these guys are washed. I think that neither one of these guys is going to take any more of a beating than they need to at this point in their career. If these guys both got carried out on their shields after a 15-minute war that went to decision, I would be like, you guys are making very bad life choices here at the age of 37 and 39 years old. 43 professional fights for Joe Lauzon. 54 professional fights for Donald Cerrone. You combine it, and you're talking about 750 minutes in the cage. These guys shouldn't be taking any unnecessary damage at their age, and I think that this fight's going to finish inside the distance.
Yeah, I think this fight finishes under 1.5 rounds, like just with the style of Joe Lauzon. I think he's going to come in here trying to take off the head of Cerrone early. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I think he quits. I think he does look for the door. We have not seen Joe Lauzon fight in 2 years and 6 months, and that's crazy considering a lot of people was saying he was washed back 4 years ago against Chris Grutzmacher. We were calling him washed 4 years ago, and it's 2022. Like, this fight is a mess. On the flip side, you have Donald Cerrone, who, oh my gosh, man, like getting finished in the first round by Alex Morono is just not a good look. Yeah, I think violence is indeed the way to go. Touching a money line would not recommend, right? That does not sound smart. But we take a look at the odds, and Donald Cerrone opened up minus 300, and he's currently plus 164. Joe Lauzon opened up plus 250. He's currently plus 144. And somebody in the chat said it, Donald Cerrone, no matter how good of a matchup this is on paper, because I do think it's a really good matchup on paper, Donald Cerrone shouldn't be a minus 300 favorite against anybody. The fight goes to decision, is plus 155. The fight doesn't go to decision, is minus 185. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 plus 120. Under 2.5 rounds, minus 150. So I do like the fight doesn't go quite a bit on this fight. It's probably my second favorite spot on the card. And then I'm also going to be looking at the Joe Lauzon first round prop. I feel like it potentially is juicy. I feel like it's probably his win condition. If this gets out of the first 2.5 minutes, I see Lauzon kind of folding. So, I like the fight doesn't go, and I like that first round prop for Lauzon.
Dude, I'll tell you something, man. When I saw that I had to do data entry for fucking Joe Lauzon, I started screaming obscenities. I'm like, why are you coming back, man? But I'm glad I did, Brady, because I'm looking at this guy's career, and I'm like, as I'm doing the data entry, I'm like, shit, man, this guy Lauzon's not good. You look at his record, and you look at the wins, right? He comes in and he gets that win against Jens Pulver, right? So, I mean, like, nobody was expecting it, but this is back in 2006, right? Mm-hmm. Then you look at the wins. 0-1 Brandon Melendez, 0-3 Jason Reinhart, 1-3 Kyle Bradley. He's got an 0-9 win over Jeremy Stevens. That's impressive. 0-3 Gabe Rudiger, 1-2 Kurt Warburton. Melvin Gillard, 12-9, and we know Melvin Gillard was not good. Jamie Varner, 3-6. Mac Danzig, 5-8. The signature win is Michael Chiesa back in 2014. After that, Takanori Gomi, 4-9. Diego Sanchez in 2016. He was even kind of washed then. Then a 1-3 Marcin Held, and then a lucky win over a 4-1 Jonathan Pierce. This guy, over all these years and all these wins in the UFC, you add up the records of the guys that he's beaten, they've got a losing record, 82 and 87. And then you look at the guys that Cowboy's been beating, and everybody that Cowboy beaten would have destroyed Joe Lauzon, So I see why he opened up at minus 300. But, dude, both of these guys could just check out at any point of this fight. So I kind of feel like fight doesn't go to decision is the best way to go. But after I did that data entry for Lauzon, I'm like, man, this guy's kind of a fraud.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, best win, Michael Chiesa.
Yeah, and I mean, he's lost to us to studs. I mean, obviously, like the guy. I'm not saying that the guy isn't a mixed martial arts legend. I love Joe Lauzon. I mean, anybody that's watched the sport for a long time, Cerrone too. They're both credits to the sport. They both have done amazing things for the sport. But when you look at the resume for Lauzon, it's not as good as you remember it. I'm guaranteeing you that.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. But I just question like where not only Lauzon is, but both these guys, like where's their head at? What's their motivation? Joe Lauzon, he coaches at his own gym, right? He owns his own gym, Lauzon.
Yeah, Lauzon MMA. He's been there for years. Yeah,
hasn't fought in 2.5 years. This is probably his. You got to imagine this is his retirement fight, right? You got to
come on. It has to be, dude. It has to be.
And I can guarantee you, like this is if Cerrone loses, especially that this is his last fight as well. So, what a mess, but what a fun fight! what an absolute.
It's going to be such a fun fight, but yeah, I mean, at the same time, I don't think you want to really plant your flag on the money line side on either way here.
Yeah, I would not recommend doing that. Not at all. But the fight doesn't go, I think, is a really solid spot. Let us move on to the next fight. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's the same damn thing.
It's the same
it's just
analysis.
205.
It's the same analysis. We have Shogun Rua, legend of the sport, going against Ovince St. Preux. We have Shogun 40 years old, 6'1" with a 76-inch reach. Ovince St. Preux, 39 years old, 6'3" with an 80-inch reach. Ovince St. Preux, 1 year younger. He's going to have a 2-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage. Shogun, 2-2-1 draw in his last 5 fights. Knockout loss to Anthony Smith. Knockout win against Tyson Pedro. Draw against Paul Craig. A decision win against Lil Nog. And then a knockout loss to Paul Craig in his last fight. Ovince St. Preux, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Submission win over Mikhail Olszewczuk. Decision loss to Ben Rothwell. Knockout win against Alonzo Menafield. Knockout loss to Jamal Hill. And knockout loss to Tanner Boser. So kind of the same analysis. This one, who's more washed at this point is probably what you got to be thinking, right? And I kind of lean towards it being Shogun, at least with OSP. Like, he's on a 2-fight knockout loss streak here, but prior to that, he did look good against Alonzo Menafield. He looked okay against Rothwell, looked good against Mikhail Olszewczuk, but Shogun has not looked good in a while. He had that draw against Paul Craig. It's just a really bad look, getting 10-8'd by Paul Craig there in the first round. Paul Craig was this close to getting him out of there. Had that win, very sloppy win against Lil Nog that went to split decision. Lil Nog was like 45, and then getting knocked out by Paul Craig. He actually tapped the strikes in that fight. Just another really bad look. And I actually thought that was the last fight we were going to see of Shogun, but no, we're getting this one as well. And then on the flip side, you have OSP, who's not much younger, but I feel like OSP is going to have advantages in this fight at this point. OSP is good on the feet. He has good striking, just really low volume, but he does have some power. I think he's going to have the cardio advantage, and I think if he can get on top of Shogun, he can either get him out of there with a TKO or a submission. I feel like OSP probably gets this done and probably gets it done somewhat early, but again, can you really trust either fighter? And the answer to that is no. And then we'll talk about the line, and we see that OSP is a huge favorite, and this fight is another just sketchy fight. But I like OSP here, just ever so slightly, but laying like minus 200 something, whatever on him probably does not seem like the best idea.
Has OSP fought Hua before?
Yeah, he knocked him out in the first round.
Okay, but that was okay. Yeah, so that was back in 2014. Okay, got it. Yeah. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this fight because when you look at the numbers, I mean, they're actually really similar for both guys. They've both been around forever. 40 fights for Hua, 41 for St. Preux. Both of them over 20 UFC fights. Both of these guys finish at over an 80% rate in their careers, and even at the UFC level, they're finishing over 73%. Both of them. They're both getting finished in their losses, but. Yeah, dude, Shogun Hua, you didn't know if this guy was going to show up when he was 30. If you've watched this guy's career, he's the kind of guy that you can just get wrong every fucking fight because he'll look like dog shit 2 fights in a row, and then you'll think he's washed, and then he'll put together a 4-fight winning streak. And then as soon as you say, like, oh my God, he's won 4 in a row, it looks like Shogun's taking this shit seriously, he'll show up for 30 seconds and get starched by somebody that's not on his level. So I would never bet on a Maurício Shogun Hua fight unless he was fighting somebody, that I think that their career was just getting started, and that's not Ovince St. Preux. And as a matter of fact, Knoxville Martial Arts is where Shanna Young comes from. And I had heard that prior to this camp, the whole Knoxville Martial Arts camp had kind of broken up. So I don't even know where OSP is training right now. So yeah, it's just, dude, I'm not touching this damn fight, man. What's the fight doesn't go to decision? Is there a decent number on that? Props.
I actually think the fight doesn't go to decision hits more often than not. Like, I feel like OSP just runs through Shogun here in the first round. But the fight doesn't get the decision is minus 205. The fight goes to decision is plus 165. The problem for me, though, is I just don't really feel like putting $1 on this fight. That's my problem. But I do feel like that fight doesn't go hits.
Yeah. I mean, if you put money on this fight, be prepared to be pissed off if it doesn't go your way and then have to just be like, why did I do that? Why did I bet on Ovince St. Preux versus Maurício Shogun Hua in the year 2022? Yeah. The year is important here. This is 2022. We shouldn't be betting on fucking Cowboy Lauzon. We shouldn't be betting, on St. Preux, Hua in 2022. These are 2012 fights, so I'm going to stay away. At minus 210, seriously, I might be parlaying that, Brady. 32 out of 46 combined fights in the UFC for both of these guys to finish inside the distance. That's about 70%. But the odds that one of these two guys is going to quit is huge. I mean, you got to figure it's way more than what it would have been 5-10 years ago for these guys. So it might be something I throw in a degenerate parlay, but other than that, yeah, I'm going to be staying far away.
Yep, and we'll take a look at the money line. Ovince St. Preux, he opened up minus 160. He's currently minus 235.
Come on.
Shogun opened up plus 140. He's now plus 200. So there it is, right? Somebody in the chat did say it, but yeah, OSP inside the distance, I think would be much better than laying minus 235. OSP inside the distance is minus 110. I'd want at least plus money for OSP inside the distance at the very least, but that money line, just laying minus 240 on a fighter in this fight just did not seem wise to me.
Dude, and you think about it too, like you want to talk about a very, very improbable result. Let's talk a couple of fights ago, Paul Craig against Maurício Shogun Rua going to decision.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, think about that. A guy as washed as Rua, a guy who is a kill or be killed fighter, fighting an opponent in Craig who is actually even more of a kill and be killed fighter. That wound up being a fucking war that went the full 3 rounds. Rua fought his ass off. And that's my point, is you don't know which guy is going to show up. Every once in a while, you think this guy's completely washed, and he shows up for a war. So, I've talked myself into staying away from this fight. If I bet Ovince St. Preux at minus 240 and lost that bet, I'd have to there would be people behind me like with bells yelling shame. And then I'd have to sit in the town square with a shirt that said I laid minus 230 on Ovince St. Preux in the year 2022. And people could just throw rotten tomatoes at me and shit because I deserve it.
Yeah, that's what I was doing today, actually. I had a Gina Mazzani shirt saying I laid minus 160 on Gina Mazzani. People were throwing tomatoes and absolutely deserved it, right?
You cleaned up beautifully. I'll have you know, for the show. Thank you for doing that, man.
No problem. But that's where I was all day. That's what I was doing. That was fun. But yeah, laying minus 240 no OSP just did not seem like a good idea there.
No, I agree, man. I agree. I'll be staying away. We got 15 fights on this card, you guys. You don't have to bet on this one if you don't want to. There's a lot of other great spots.
Yeah, for sure. Nigel saying shame, shame, shame. Shame on me. Shame on me. I like it. All right, we will move on to the next fight. And we have Tony Ferguson going against Michael Chandler. We have Tony Ferguson, who is 38 years old, 5'11", 76-inch reach. Michael Chandler, 36 years old, 5'8", 71-inch reach. It's going to be Chandler, who's going to be younger by 2 years, but it's going to be Ferguson that's going to have a 3-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage. Ferguson is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Remember, he was on that big win streak, and he got snapped by Justin Gaethje in an all-out war. A fight that was actually kind of hard to watch. It was a late 5th round stoppage, which I do completely agree with the stoppage. Tony ate so much punishment in that fight. And that was the first time Tony Ferguson was actually ever knocked out against Justin Gaethje, but he ate a bunch of hard shots. He even had that one uppercut. I think it was the end of the 2nd or 3rd round that would have put most people out, but Justin Gaethje kind of ate it and walked through it. But that was the first loss that snapped that big win streak. Prior to that, knocked out Donald Cerrone with that cut stoppage. Prior to that, knocked out Anthony Pettis. And yeah, since that Gaethje fight, just has not been looking good for Tony Ferguson. Decision loss against Charles Oliveira, decision loss against Beneil Dariush on a 3-fight skid here. Michael Chandler is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Dan Hooker, knocked him out in the first couple minutes of that fight. Did get knocked out by Charles Oliveira in a fight where he was very close, this close to finishing Charles Oliveira in the first round. Gets to the second, and then Oliveira finishes Chandler in that second round. And then he lost a very close decision to Justin Gaethje in an all-out war, one of the best fights you'll ever see. So, yeah, this fight's weird. We have Chandler, who's the biggest favorite on the card, and I feel like if this fight was a couple of years, if this fight was before the Justin Gaethje fight, I feel like I would give Tony Ferguson a much better chance than now. He just does not look good, and the blueprint is kind of laid out on how to beat Tony Ferguson. Charles Oliveira took him down in every single round, was able to control him. Beneil Dariush took him down in every single round, was able to control him. And I feel like if Michael Chandler does not like how it's going on the feet, he can take down Tony Ferguson and probably control him. But I don't want to completely count out Tony Ferguson here. I mean, take a look at who he's losing against. Beneil Dariush, Charles Oliveira, the champion, and Justin Gaethje, who's fighting for the title this Saturday. So he's losing to very good competition. It's just the way he's losing. He just does not look all there, but he's still very, very dangerous on the feet. He did land some good shots against Justin Gaethje in their fight, and then he's very dangerous off his back as well. And you have Michael Chandler, who this guy's very dangerous. This guy throws bombs on the feet. He has wrestling background as well. He's a black belt in BJJ in his own right, a very well-rounded fighter. But, Michael Chandler's now 36 years old at this point, so he's getting up there in age as well. Should be a very fun fight. Tony Ferguson, fan favorite. Big fan of Michael Chandler as well. Weezy, what do you think about this one here?
I mean, I think it's an amazing fight. I really do. Tony Ferguson's probably my favorite fighter of all time. He's one of the guys that really made me stick to watching this sport from the time that he was on The Ultimate Fighter on Brock Lesnar's team back in the day. He's a guy who I think that, he's easy to figure out, Brady. He's a guy who brings 17-round conditioning. You can hit him in the fucking face with a shovel 10 times in a row and he's going to keep walking forward. So, but unfortunately, I think that there were some skill gaps that we didn't see, that some deficiencies for Ferguson as he was coming up, because he could take such a beating, because he could take his opponent's best shots and keep walking forward, and push pace late in fights that could break his opponents. I think that so many of his opponents that he broke themselves realizing, this guy's eating my best shots, and now he's throwing even more punches than when the fight started. So that kind of an archetype of fighter is not the one you want to support late in their career, because eventually they get cracked. And it was the Justin Gaethje fight where it really looked like Tony's ability to be able to take shots from the best and walk through them and then break them late in fights. I don't think that that's part of his game anymore. And then we look at the statistical problems that we have with Tony Ferguson. Only 6 takedowns in 19 fights, and 68% takedown defense. But, he's getting out-controlled at about a 6-to-1 ratio on the ground by his opponents. And, he throws a lot more volume. He's got great conditioning, but, he's been knocked down 4 times, and he's only recorded 3 knockdowns. So I think that Ferguson's gotten to this point right now where I don't think it's going to work for him anymore. Mixed martial arts doesn't end well, especially when late in your career. And I think the style that Ferguson has fought all these years, that fan-friendly style, that ability to be able to take punishment, that ability to be able to walk forward like a zombie, eating his opponent's best shots, and then just taking over as the fight goes on, using that conditioning and toughness. I just don't see that working against Michael Chandler here. And I think Chandler can get takedowns whenever he wants them against Tony Ferguson. And I think Tony Ferguson will be happy to play jiu-jitsu off his back and lose a ton of minutes there. So I see why Chandler's a big favorite here. I can't bet him at this line because you just got to believe that Tony Ferguson can still give people problems. I mean, Michael Chandler's not 29. He's 36. He's got 29 professional fights and 265 minutes in the pro cage, and he's been a champion. He's fought 5 rounds. He's got a lot of tread on his tires as well, too. So, and then we look at the strength of schedule stats, Brady, and they're almost identical. It's just that Ferguson has 19 fights and Chandler has 3. But we know what we've seen out of Chandler here: 1-2 in the UFC, beating Hooker, losing to Oliveira, losing to Gaethje. He lost to 2 guys that Tony Ferguson has lost to. So I just think that if you look at it stylistically, that I think Chandler will be able to get takedowns whenever he wants them. And once he does that, he'll be able to win minutes on the ground. And I think on the feet, it'll be close because Ferguson's so willing to eat shots.
Yeah. Yep, I thought you broke it down perfectly. Kind of seen it the same way, like on the feet, yes, competitive, but like I said, the blueprint is there for Michael Chandler if he wants to take it. Just take down Tony Ferguson. The takedown defense does not look good. Stay safe on top. Like I said, Chandler is a black belt. I think the path to victory is absolutely there. But, I went and watched a good amount of Chandler fights. Like, that's not something he typically does a ton. He doesn't go out there and shoot a ton of takedowns. So maybe he comes out here and stands and bangs with Tony for 3 rounds. At that point, I don't really like him at minus 400, and I really don't like him at minus 400 regardless. But yeah, I got to go Chandler here, but I hate the price tag. Chandler opened up as a minus 155. That's interesting. He's currently minus 400. Ferguson opened up plus 135. He is currently plus 300 there. So yeah, I see minus 500 on Michael Chandler. I mean, I think he wins, but that's definitely a hefty price to pay.
It really is. And what's the over 1.5 here? Somebody just mentioned that in the chat. It looks like it's plus 10, minus 135. And dude, Tony Ferguson is incredibly durable. Yeah. I don't know if he's really got that first round finishing power in him anymore. So I think the over 1.5 or even the over 2.5 at plus money is actually kind of interesting here, simply because it's a play on the conditioning and the durability of Tony Ferguson, which I think is going to continue to be his best attributes. I think it always has been his best attributes. And, when you're as tough and durable and as well-conditioned as Tony is, plus well-rounded, it shows that you can go on a huge winning streak in the toughest division in the entire sport. So, yeah, man, I won't be laying this kind of juice on Chandler. And what will be an interesting bet is Tony Ferguson round 3. I mean, that's probably his path here, is if Chandler does gas out and then Chandler, Ferguson puts a pace on him in the 3rd round. That could be an interesting way to look at this one.
Yeah, and I'm kind of kicking myself. I woke up this morning and I went to DraftKings Sportsbook and I saw they had the over 1.5 at minus 130. I thought, hey, that's very interesting. I went to tape the fight. I get back and it's like minus 160, something like that. So I missed that minus 130 on DraftKings. But yeah, like you said, they still have it there. But of course, it is out there on 5 Dimes Sportsbook. So 5 Dimes has minus 140 now. And I think that over 1.5 is a really good line. But obviously, we don't have access to that. And by the time we do get the lines, we're not going to get that minus 140. You don't got to believe. And then, like I said, the fight goes decision plus 160. Like that's kind of interesting to me. Like the over 2.5 plus 125. You're banking on that Ferguson durability. You need a baseball bat to get him out of there. And I don't think you're allowed to bring a baseball bat into the cage unless I'm mistaken.
No, I don't think they'll let you do that anymore.
Or a fake cast.
Yeah, the fake cast. Now that would be good, dude. Because that used to work back in the old wrestling days. I don't know if it'll work in the UFC. They're a little more prone to catching that stuff. But god damn, Tony Ferguson is about as durable as it gets, and there's no bigger heart that I've ever seen in this sport. So I'm gonna be rooting for El Cucuy. Like I say, man, he's my favorite fighter of all time, and if he came back and got a win over Chandler here, I would really enjoy that as a fan, because this guy has given so much to both of these guys, and this is a great fight.
Yes, sir, it is. Cannot wait for it. And you know what's another good fight is the co-main event. We have Rose Namajunas going against Carla Esparza, their second fight. Cannot wait for this one as well. We have Rose Namajunas. She is 29 years old, 5'5" with a 65-inch reach. Carla Esparza, 34 years old, 5'1" with a 63-inch reach. We have Rose Namajunas is going to be 5 years younger. She's going to have a 4-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage as well. Rose Namajunas, she is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Decision win against Joanna, a knockout loss to Jessica Andrade. That's that slam knockout. A decision win against Jessica Andrade, a knockout win against Zhang Weili head kick, and then that split decision win against Zhang Weili her last time out. Carla Esparza, she is 5-0 in her last 5 fights. Decision win against Verna Jandiroba. Decision win against Alexa Grasso. Decision win against Michelle Watterson. Decision win against Marina Rodriguez. And then a knockout win against Yan Xiaonan, probably the best Carla Esparza's ever looked. So, yeah, this is a fight where, I don't know, it's kind of a tricky one because I feel like this fight is going to play out somewhat close, and the line does not really indicate that. You can go back and look at their first fight. That was back in 2014. You can't take a ton from that. It was, Rose was the better striker. Esparza was able to take her down, a good amount of times. Rose kind of slowed down, kind of gassed out, and Carla ended up finishing her, I think, in the 3rd round. Can't take too much from that fight. Obviously, both fighters have improved quite a bit, but it was kind of interesting. I was looking through the career of Rose Namajunas after that Esparza fight. She's not really, well, she's not fighting really anybody that wants to take her down outside of Jessica Andrade, who did try to take her down a couple times in that slam knockout. Andrade tried to take her down, looks like 3 times in their second fight. And then outside of that, Zhang Weili tried to take her down and did take her down 5 times out of 11 attempts. So those were really the 3 fights since the Esparza fight where a fighter was trying to take down Rose Namajunas. So she's not really faced a ton of fighters trying to take her down. But I liked what I saw. I mean, I didn't like what I saw in terms of the takedown defense of Rose. I think that's terrifying. It's sitting at 51%. I don't like that. But what I do like is she does have a very good get-up game. She is very good off her back. I do like that against Zhang Weili. She was able to get up when she got taken down. Zhang Weili took her down 5 times, and Zhang Weili was only able to control her for about 3 minutes. So I like to see that. But, the takedown defense is a concern. But you got to believe when this fight is on the feet, it's going to be Rose all day. Carla Esparza, pretty one-dimensional with that wrestling. She did look phenomenal in her last fight against Yan Xiaonan. She cut open Yan Xiaonan very, very bad. She got her in the crucifix, I believe, and ended up finishing that fight. And I want to say it was Keith Peterson reffing potentially. And Keith Peterson actually stopped it at a reasonable time. So that was good to see. But yeah, man, at first I was leaning Esparza pre-tape. After tape, I was leaning Rose. After thinking about it, I'm kind of more on the Esparza side. Like this fight is very, very close. I think I do lean Rose. I feel like this fight is primarily going to play out on the feet about half the time. I feel like Esparza is going to get her down. I think that's a given. And I think she's going to get her down a lot. And Bootsy actually like an Esparza as well. Bootsy's been on a roll. But I feel like Rose is going to be active off her back. She's going to get up. She's going to outstrike Esparza. We know the judges, they kind of favor the striking and the damage more so than the wrestling, the lay and pray these days. I guess I slightly lean Rose, but after digging into it, I really don't like the line. Weezy, I'm actually really curious to hear your thoughts on this one. I see people out there with very confident takes on either side, and that's typically how it is with women's MMA. But I'm curious to hear your take on this fight.
Yeah, so, we got a nice experience advantage here for Carla. 100 more minutes in the pro cage, 9 more fights, 1 more UFC fight, about 27 more minutes in the UFC cage. It's obviously Rose. It's the much better finisher, though, in comparison to Esparza, as we've got a 63% finish rate for Rose as a pro and a 44% finish rate for Esparza as a pro. And Esparza's finished 2 of her 9 UFC wins, 1 by knockout, 1 by submission. The 1 submission win was over Rose Namajunas here. Rose has been finished in 2 of her 4 pro losses, and for Esparza, it's been 3 of 6. So they've been finished in exactly 50% of their combined losses. Yeah, it should be Rose on the feet here. She's gotten 4 knockdowns in 12 UFC fights. She lands 0.1 more significant strikes per minute than she absorbs. And she's got a 59% striking defense in comparison to 53.25% striking defense for Carla Esparza. Esparza absorbs more significant strikes per minute than she lands, and has never landed a knockdown, but she's never been knocked down either. Carla Esparza's fights taking place in control time positions about 50% of the time, and for Rose, it's about 35% of the time. So Carla seems to be pretty good in the control time positions, but what's interesting is that Rose has attempted about as many takedowns as her opponents have, but she's out controlling her opponents at like about a 2.5 to 1 ratio. So Rose has got a really good get-up game when she's getting taken down. And when she's taking down her opponents, she's actually winning a lot of minutes on the ground. So she's been very efficient. When you look at Esparza's numbers, she's attempting about 3.5 takedowns for every 1 that her opponent attempts, but she's out controlling her opponents at less than a 2 to 1 ratio. So I would say that Rose has actually been a little bit more efficient on the ground than Carla has, but it's obviously Carla that goes to the wrestling, attempting 8 takedowns per fight, while Rose tries about 2.5. So Rose would prefer to keep the fight standing, but when her opponents do try to initiate the grappling, she doesn't seem to have that much of a problem with it. She gets taken down a lot, only 51.72% takedown defense, but even though she's been taken down 14 times in 12 fights, she's been controlled for less than 10% of the 151 minutes that she's been in the cage. So that's less than 15 minutes of control time yielded on 14 takedowns. So when she does get taken down, she is getting back up. So, but like you said, Brady, she's only faced 29 takedown attempts in 12 fights. And the last time that somebody really did spam takedowns was Carla Esparza, and she got subbed. So it to me, it does seem like there's a really good chance that Carla Esparza can win a lot of minutes on the ground here. And I would feel like that's her path. When we look at the strength of schedule stats, there's really not much to mention. They're both fighting top-notch competition. They're both beating top-notch competition, and they're both losing to top-notch competition. So this is a very close fight, dude. I think Rose is going to be better on the feet. She's going to be more dangerous on the feet. I think Carla Esparza has a really good chance to win a significant amount of minutes on the ground in this fight, though. But she's going to have to really push a pace in order to do that and bring 5-round conditioning with the wrestling heavy game plan in order for me to feel like she's got a chance to win this fight, 40, 50% of the time. And that's going to be a tough row to hoe against Rose Namajunas, against Thug Rose here.
Yep, it is. We will take a look at the odds, and it looks like Rose is a pretty big favorite. She opened up as a minus 220 favorite. She is now minus 210. Carla Esparza opened up plus 185, and she is currently plus 180. And we talk about it a lot in terms of the wrestling. Like, for Carla Esparza to win this fight, she's going to have to go for a ton of takedowns. She's going to have to complete a ton of takedowns, and she's going to have to do that for 5 rounds. That's not an easy thing to do, especially if Rose is able to get up consistently and make her work there. So, yeah, I don't know. I just can't get. I can't get to minus 210 on Rose. I really can't. I'll pick her to win. I'll pick her to win a decision. But the minus 210, I'm not really in love with. The over/under set at 4.5. The over 4.5 minus 200. Under 4.5 plus 160. The fight goes to decision minus 180. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 150. Any thoughts on any props or anything?
Yeah, so we were actually, that's the one thing I didn't do. Let me do something real quick here. 5-round fights. Let's go to women's strawweight, and let's see what the finish rate has been in the women's strawweight division in 5-round fights in the UFC since 2013, because this will give us a really good idea of whether we want to make a bet on this one.
Okay.
So for strawweight, I've got how many fights here? We got these. So just stick with me for a second here, Brady, while we work this out, and we'll get you some really nice information here in terms of the finish rates. And let's go up here. So there have been at least 20 of these things. And women's strawweight here, Namajunas, Control C.
While we're waiting, I can tell a Parker Porter joke.
Please do.
I don't know where to start.
All right, so I'm going to go here for column F and just go smallest to largest. So I see that we have had 10 out of 18 fights finish inside the distance in the women's strawweight division. So that's 50%. Now, according to the prop template, we've got a fight doesn't go here that's sitting at Namajunas plus 155. So, you're getting plus money on these things that are finishing inside the distance over half the time. It's not that bad. And then the individual finish rates of these women, 7 of 18 wins, 4 of 7 losses. So that's 11 of 25. That's showing a 4.8% edge over the implied probability, a 13.5% edge over the finish rate, but actually 11 of 25 is going to be less than what the 5-round finish rate is. So nothing's really jumping out, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't think I'll have a bet on this fight. Like, nothing really sticks out. No props, no money line. Honestly, if anything, it's probably dog or pass with Esparza, but I'm gonna pick Rose to win. I'm gonna pick her to edge out a decision there.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to go, but I wouldn't be surprised if Carla was able to win enough minutes on the ground to make this really greasy.
Yeah, for sure. All right, it is main event time, and me and Weezy will actually be going back to back. We're doing a main event deep dive at 10:15 p.m. Eastern time on the MMA Engine channel. So yeah, check us out in about like 30 minutes or so. So move on to the main event. We have Charles Oliveira going against Justin Gaethje. Like I said earlier, probably my most anticipated fight outside of that Colby Covington Masvidal fight. Like, this fight's going to be phenomenal. Two guys that I am very high on, two guys that are some of the most dangerous guys in the division. I love that. I love violence. Charles Oliveira, he's 32 years old, 5'10" with a 74-inch reach. Justin Gaethje, 33 years old, 5'11" with a 70-inch reach. It's going to be Oliveira, who's going to be 1 year younger, 1 inch height disadvantage, and he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage as well. We take a look at the last few fights. Oliveira has been on a really good run. 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Jared Gordon. Submission win against Kevin Lee. Decision win against Tony Ferguson. Knockout win against Michael Chandler. And a submission win against Dustin Poirier. As far as Justin Gaethje, is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. A knockout win against Edson Barbosa. A knockout win against Donald Cerrone. A knockout win against Tony Ferguson. A submission loss to Khabib. And then a decision win against Michael Chandler. Weezy, I'll let you kick this one off. Should be an absolute banger of a main event here.
Yeah, it absolutely should be. So goddamn, this is such a good fight. I'm just looking at the stats right now for Gaethje, and Gaethje has only faced 19 takedown attempts in 9 UFC fights. So that's just about 2 takedown attempts per fight. Nurmagomedov only needed 1 takedown, I think, to finish him. Is what I'm seeing right here. Let me look. Nurmagomedov,
I think it was 2. But he got in the mountain.
2 out of 3 takedowns. Yeah. Yes, 2. He got 2 out of 3, but he only amassed 55 seconds of control time on those 2 takedowns. And nobody else has amassed more than that against Justin Gaethje. And all it took was 55 seconds to finish him. Who's a better submission artist, Charles Oliveira or Khabib Nurmagomedov? And I mean, they're both excellent, but I think that they're both comparable. Nurmagomedov, the better wrestler, but boy, Charles Oliveira is such a finisher on the ground that you have to worry about a guy that has never allowed more than 55 seconds of control time in 9 fights. 9 fights, he's only faced 18 takedown attempts. So that's the biggest thing that I'm worried about here for Gaethje, because when you look at the numbers, right? Charles Oliveira, 29 UFC fights, Brady. About 50% of his time is taking place in control time positions for or against. For Gaethje, it's 9 UFC fights, and about 7% of his fights were taking place in control time positions for or against. Oliveira's got really good striking, but I don't think he's just going to sit there and strike with this guy. He's wearing the belt. He probably wants to keep it. And I think that the best way to do that would be just for him to simply wrestle here. And Oliveira's done that. 82 takedown attempts in 29 fights. He's gotten 34 of them. He's averaging 2.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. And even more dangerous than that is the 2.79 submission attempts per 15 minutes. Justin Gaethje has had 1 submission attempted against him in 9 fights, and it was successful. I don't want to cheat this breakdown of any of the content that it deserves, but I think that is the crux of it, you guys. 50% of Oliveira's 29 fights taking place in control time positions. Gaethje, 6%. We know Oliveira thrives in control time positions, and Gaethje doesn't. Will Gaethje be able to stop Oliveira's takedowns and keep this a striking match? If he does, I think it's just a matter of time before he gets him out of there. If he doesn't, I think Charles Oliveira will submit him almost immediately. Love the fight doesn't go to decision here. 87% career finish rate for Justin Gaethje, and a 91% finish rate for Charles Oliveira, Brady. And by the way, Oliveira has been finished in 7 of his 8 losses, and Justin Gaethje has been finished in all 3 of his pro losses. 10 of 11 losses coming inside the distance for these 2 gentlemen. The biggest parlay piece of the week is going to be fight doesn't go to decision for the main event.
Yep, sounds good to me. And yeah, this fight is so good. I don't know. I feel like I give Justin Gaethje a little bit more credence than you are, but I'm still on the Oliveira side myself. I feel like, in space, like Oliveira is not going to go out there, double leg Justin Gaethje in the middle of the cage, right? Oliveira, if he's going to get this fight down to the mat, he's going to push Gaethje against the cage. He's going to drag him down, or he's going to even take his back standing. And like you said, if this fight hits the mat for 10 seconds, if this fight hits the mat at any point in time, it's over. Like the grappling is non-comparable. You know, we've seen Oliveira go out there and submit black belts. You know, Justin Gaethje is just not. We don't see his grappling a lot, but I think, you know, Oliveira is, you know, the best grappler in the division at this point, and I feel like he's going to submit Justin Gaethje if the fight hits him at any type of way. So Oliveira has that going for him, but I just don't think it's going to be easy to take down Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje's shown very good takedown defense. You know, Khabib was able to get him down twice, but that's Khabib, you know, one of the best wrestlers you ever see.
Yeah.
But I do think that Oliveira, I think his striking is like really underrated. I think people tend to really underrate that striking of Oliveira. He's really good on the feet. He has a ton of power, ton of tools on the feet there. And I loved what he did in the Dustin Poirier fight. And what he did was attack the body. And I feel like he should really do that here. And what he also did in the Poirier fight was, as soon as the fight started, this guy was pressuring in that fight. And I like that as well. I feel like if he does that here, like, I feel like he can break Justin Gaethje a little bit, go to the body, get him tired. We saw Dustin Poirier, who has a 5-round gas tank. Dustin Poirier looked tired after that first round with Oliveira, and then Oliveira got him down to the second, and then by the third round, Dustin Poirier was like look completely gassed, and Oliveira was able to submit him. And I think Dustin Poirier is a much better gas tank than Justin Gaethje here. So I think Justin Gaethje is going to be very live to get a first-round knockout. I think that's his path to victory, a first-round knockout. We saw Michael Chandler hurt Oliveira bad, was very close to getting him out of there. And then we saw Dustin Poirier hurt him very bad a couple times in the first round, was not able to get him out of there. And then we see Oliveira take over, and we saw Chandler look tired in that second round. We saw, you know, Poirier look tired. And I feel like if Justin Gaethje does not get out Charles Oliveira in the first round, Oliveira is going to take over. I actually think Oliveira has the much better cardio here. I liked what I saw in that second round against Chandler. I like what I saw in that second and third round against Poirier. I think Charles Oliveira has really shored up that cardio that he kind of struggled with like really early in his career against Kevin Lee. I think he got like a third round or fourth round sub in that fight. He looked good. So I think as the fight goes on, it's really going to favor a guy like Charles Oliveira, but no question about it. Oliveira is going to get hit in the first round. He's going to get hit very hard. He probably does even get hurt at some point, but is he going to be able to recover like he did against Poirier and Chandler and take over as the fight goes on? And I kind of lean towards yes. I think whoever is going to pressure is going to have success in this fight. And I feel like Oliveira needs to pressure right away. He needs to get in Justin Gaethje's face. He doesn't need to give him any space, push him against the cage, try to take his back, one back take. This fight's over. So I think Justin Gaethje is very live early on, but you got to go with Charles Oliveira here. I like him to win. I like him to break Gaethje as the fight goes on. I like him to work that body. I like him to gas out Justin Gaethje and finish him in that second, maybe third round. But yeah, like you said, I think the fight doesn't go as a good spot. And I think Oliveira does finish Gaethje as the fight goes on there. But I think Gaethje's so live in that first round. Gaethje has serious power. And we have seen Oliveira get hurt quite a bit his last couple of fights, but he is able to recover from that and able to eventually weather that storm. And I think that's the case here. Give me Oliveira to retain the title. But yeah, this is going to be such a good fight.
Yeah, it's going to be such a great fight. Can't wait for this one. I feel the same way. I'm on Charlie Olives here. I think he's going to push a pace that's going to be difficult for Gaethje, because Gaethje is one of these guys who doesn't use his wrestling on offense at all. Even when he's got the grappling advantage, you know, he refuses to wrestle. So we know that Gaethje's not going to make a dumb mistake and shoot on Oliveira here. That's comforting, you know. Gaethje, you know, he keeps fights standing all the time. That's where he wants it. So he's got a very clear path here. Hey, I'm going to keep this fight standing. And if we do that, I think he breaks Oliveira in the second, third, fourth round, you know, with those low leg kicks. I mean, not many people are going to be able to handle taking 4 or 5 calf kicks from Gaethje. So, but one thing that pisses me off is when people who have a grappling advantage refuse to pressure. And we don't have that problem with Oliveira. Yeah. I think he's going to be pressuring. I think he's going to be able to keep Gaethje on the back feet. And if he does that, I think he might make this look kind of easy. I think if Oliveira gets this thing to the ground, it's going to be over. I'm going with Charles Oliveira, and I'm going with him to win by submission inside the distance.
Yeah, and I completely Bootsy.
Yeah, Bootsy needs a walk actually right now. So he's like, yeah, that's him like yelling at me like, oh my, I think I like Gaethje, but you better get out here and walk me, you prick.
I got you. I really agree with this comment. MMA fans saying Gaethje has great takedown defense. He does on the legs. Yes. I think he's going to struggle with the body lock takedowns and the back takes. Yes, up against the cage, that's where I think Gaethje is going to struggle. And if Oliveira gets him down, the fight, it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. He needs probably 30 seconds to a minute to submit Justin Gaethje there. Oliveira is so good on the mat. But yeah, we'll talk more about this fight in about 30 minutes on the MMA Engine channel. Weezy, I'll let you walk Bootsy, so we might push it back a couple more minutes than that. But yeah, check us out on the MMA Engine. We're going to go more into detail on this. We're going to talk more about the odds, get into all the props and all that. But yeah, we have Oliveira is a decent sized favorite, opened up -205, went all the way. It says it went all the way down to -1260 for some reason.
I missed that.
Yeah, and then went to -178. So -170 for Oliveira. Gaethje opened up a +175. He went all the way up to +835 for a second, and then he's now back down to +153. So money coming in on Oliveira. I think Oliveira is the rightful favorite, and I do like Oliveira to win. And I'm assuming you're the same way, Weezy.
Yeah, I do like him to win, but I can't wait for this fight. It's going to be such a damn good fight. And I mean, Gaethje's never been in a boring fight, and Charles Oliveira really hasn't either. The Ferguson fight was kind of boring, but you know, that was another testament to Tony Ferguson's durability. His arm was broken in half in that first round, and he didn't quit. Yeah. You know, and I mean, like that's a black belt in Ferguson that Oliveira just kind of made look silly there. And I mean, anybody else in the division taps when their arm is going the wrong way, and it's Charles Oliveira that's doing it to you. If he gets Gaethje in that arm bar, that fight's over, and he probably snaps it in half. So, yeah, I like Oliveira here, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Gaethje get a knockout. Man, I can't wait. Fight doesn't go to decision. Will be a parlay piece for me this week.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I like it. But yeah, guys, that's about it. We had a good amount of people in here hanging out for a very good card on a Sunday. If you guys can all hit the like button, you guys have been killing the likes. Last time I checked, we're at like 140. So we hit the 100 mark. Thank you guys for that. Subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. You can check me out on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. My full card breakdown and prediction video should be out sometime tomorrow. You can check me out on the MMA Engine as well. Typically, we're going Thursdays on there. Me and Weezy do a main event deep dive we're doing tonight. But yeah, check out Probability, MMA Engine, Thursday, 8:15. Probability, the model killed it last night, and I cannot wait to see what the model's like for this week. So Weezy, let the people know where they can find you, what you have going on throughout the week.
Yeah, sure. Check me out on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. You can find me here on Pub Sports Radio every Sunday for Stack Diggers, every Wednesday for the DFS show that we do. MMA Engine YouTube channel for Balls Deep breakdowns, and for Probability on Thursday night. You guys, we got to stack tickets. We got to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 274. Let's keep this winning streak going, you guys.
Let's do it. Thank you all so much for hanging out. Appreciate you all in the chat. You guys have been killing it. Best of luck. UFC 274. Let's make some